Our guest on this episode of the podcast is a good friend of ours, a fellow fisherman, and we've been fortunate enough to collaborate with him both on the water and through this podcast. He was essentially born into fishing like many of us and has spent the majority of his life on the water. He has over 20 years of offshore fishing experience and has respectably logged over 100 trips to the Northeast Canyons. Not only is he a passionate fisherman, but he grew up as a serious athlete and competitor. He played hockey at a high level in high school, and he attended Hobart College, where he played 4 years of Division I lacrosse. After graduating from Hobart in 2009, our guest went on to play lacrosse professionally for the Boston Cannons for 5 years as a defensive midfielder. In 2010, our guest became the sales manager for Gibbs Lures, focusing his efforts on refurbishing the company's image in both the inshore and offshore fishing community. In 2013, our guest joined the Castafari team, fishing with Captain Damon Sacco, and has since become an integral part of the program's offshore accomplishments. He has been aboard the Castafari for several tournament wins and many notable catches. In 2014, our guest partnered with his friend Mike Croteau and became a partner and owner of Deep Ocean Apparel. Our guest's focus at Deep is in sales management and social media. It is here where he can blend his passion for fishing and the ocean with a company that brands itself around the outdoor lifestyle. Most recently, our guest has been spending most of his fishing time with his brother Dan aboard their family's 46-foot Wesmac Tuf Guy, and over the past several seasons, they have been dialed in on the giant bluefin bite that has been taking place in the summer months off of Rhode Island, New York, and Connecticut. Our guest's catch rate, his family's catch rate and success over the past few years has earned them the respect as one of the top producing boats in their area. This conversation was truly a blast. Our guest is hysterical, experienced, passionate, a pleasure to talk to, a pleasure to brainstorm with, and I hope you guys enjoy this conversation as much as we did. Without further ado, please welcome to the podcast, Matt Smalley. Welcome to the SeaBros Fishing Podcast, where we follow 3 words of wisdom. You can't catch them if you don't have a hook in the water. Always trust your instincts. And the last, you'll just have to keep listening. Stay tight.
Yep, that's the one. That's the real one. Am I coming off or what? Get that down. Don't get on that rock.
So the way that we typically do these things is start off
physical.
Yeah.
Just say, when do we do the SeaBros physical? Is that all right. I think Riley already gave me that. Actually.
Yeah, he did. He already sniffed enough down there.
Yeah.
Rapid fire. The fastest, truest answer that comes to mind, and if you go off on a story or tangent, it's encouraged.
Okay.
And then we will kind of morph more into your story. Well, we've strategically listed the questions, so the final questions will kind of force us into that.
All right.
So here we go. If you had to pick one lure to feed your family for the rest of your life, what would that lure be?
Gibbs Lures pencil popper. One lure.
So you can do an offshore and an inshore one.
Yeah.
No one's ever done an inshore.
I do a
one.
little product plug, but offshore lure, a swimmer like a bomber or a nomad or what's the other, marauder. You know, probably a marauder.
Like
a deep diving plug. I feel like a deep diving plug.
Choice.
I hate fishing them. I hate them too. I hate fishing them, but when we'll cover that later. But when you get to a point when you see, I just feel like everything fucking eats it. I feel like inshore stuff will eat it. I feel like you put it out for. That's
so an overall plug for inshore and offshore. You're picking.
Yes, I dislike them, but production wise, undeniable.
Yeah, they're not the sexiest.
Oh no. Yeah,
and like,
trebles in the
and they're
face.
not very difficult to fish in most situations. Mm-hmm. So I can see why you're like, meh, but it makes total sense.
Now, are we talking like a Just a deep diving plug, period, or are you saying a trolling or a cast?
I would say more of a trolling, from a trolling perspective. I feel like it's done decent stuff inshore, unintentionally, and offshore. So yeah, I feel good about that.
All right.
That's a good answer.
That's
a very different answer. Everyone's always like green machine or bullet.
Zajac was hilarious, by the way. I was fucking enlightening.
That kid.
I was like, I pinged him after. I was like, listen, extra. Here's another $100 in gear for every Decadian. I was like, keep getting him, because he's pretty distant with like he's an authority.
Yeah. No social media, no nothing.
No, but everybody
such a big presence.
I love
He's
it.
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing dude.
Hysterical.
He's a man's man.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Gathered that.
Yeah.
Are you superstitious?
Well, obviously bananas.
Yeah. Oh,
You
yeah.
have a banana. You still have a banana shirt?
We still have the banana shirt. Yes. No fucking bananas. And of course, I mean, I don't think there's really any other ones, but not superstition, but keeping things a certain way. It has to be a certain way. I think that's something that grows on you as you get more involved.
So OCD-ness.
Yeah.
Back to the
right. Okay. Yeah, we're circling back to that, but no crazy superstitions. But yeah, no bananas. That's a great start. Don't fucking bring them.
Like every top tier captain mate that I've ever met has said the like exact same thing. Everything has its place. They have a program and they're somewhat OCD.
What's hilarious is like, I obviously am not OCD.
He is
certain things.
These are part of my questions. I have fucking questions for you guys.
Certain things I am though.
Because you see the end product, and it's obviously very successful.
Like I have a chosen OCD-ness. It's not a general.
It's older brother selective OCD-ness is what it is.
Correct.
We'll go into that.
He's more OCD like in the moment. I'm more OCD in the like macro.
We'll talk later about this. We'll fucking talk. And you're shuffling around picking up the messes, 100%. And it's like, oh, and then he turns around. He's like, well, why are you doing it that way? It's like, if you had something to say, you should have said it 10 minutes ago when I was fucking cleaning it. But so let's get through the question.
I didn't know it was gonna be about me.
Psychological dynamic.
You guys have to be fair because it's gonna be you two teaming up on.
No. But here's the thing. I understand both sides of the coin. Like, I get it. The older brother is typically shouldered earlier on with the more responsible shit, and we're responsible for taking out the trash and fucking whatever else. I mean, I don't know. We're going to have to cover all these topics.
This is amazing.
Next.
We're
moving on from this. It's going to get
giant bluefin tuna or big eye tuna?
I think giant bluefin, hands down. I mean, I love big eye, but there's the bang for your buck and how far you have to go, relatively, I think it's giant bluefin tuna.
Is there any other fish that you've caught that you like better than giant bluefin?
Nope, I don't think so. I mean, there's nothing cooler than piled on.
You've got blue marlin,
just big eye bites out at the canyon, but we all know you're out there for 2 fucking days and you're dealing with rat after rat. And when you go from, and you guys could probably agree to this, like if you guys go from the OCD-ness of giant bluefin tuna and you hop on, you're doing a 9-rod spread in the canyons.
Right.
It's tough to shut that off because you can't micromanage every single thing. And so I find it mentally exhausting, but you try to. So we've just basically, we would do the canyon and it's not as much anymore or as much as we'd like, but try to target bigger fish, with bigger lures and bigger stuff. But when you're in the canyon, it's just like, you're always imagining, the big eyes are all going to come up. And there's nothing cooler than that, but giant bluefin tuna, man. Dude, up to 1,000 pounds and you don't have to go very far. It's like, how do you get?
I don't know. I'm with you. And back to the whole comparing bluefin fishing to canyon fishing. I'm a firm believer that it helps you. Bluefin fishing helps you be a much better canyon fisherman.
Dude, canyon fishing isn't hard to produce fish, but to get like consistent certain bites is difficult.
To get the bite and to capitalize on a 5-banger of 150-pound
I think
big eyes.
It's just apples and oranges, honestly.
It is. Yeah. How do you manage the chaos and like almost like getting the bites aren't the
problem. It's capitalizing
that's luck of the
on
draw. You roll the dice and you're in the right area. There's only so much special shit you can do to differentiate yourself from the fleet, and that's when you have limited days to get out there. That's the not a frustrating part, but if you're doing the right things and they roll through, usually if you're doing the right shit, you're going to get a look.
Yeah.
Whereas with Canyon, you know, anybody can have their day. But overall, sure, you look at the guys who go out to the Canyon every single week or twice a week, you know, you'll see that curve flatten out a little bit. But it's a little bit more unpredictable. I mean, giant fishing, I mean, I'm not telling you guys anything. It's not predictable by any stretch, but they're creatures of habit. It's a smaller ocean, typically for bigger bluefin. So the little things I've seen, you know, you can do a little bit of a different performance.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Can I have you tweak like a tiny bit just because it's getting a little more of the back of your head?
I'll look at you too, Taylor. Sorry about that.
I just want to
stare into that beard and see if there's any bugs in it.
Perfect.
Feeling extra tough starting to slide over there. It's just me.
Double check. We will be situated. We usually have a...
It takes like 10 minutes.
These things got some weight.
It does, yeah. Otherwise, you'll knock it over or knock it over.
Yeah.
I'm done moving around.
Speaking of beards, what is your personal favorite facial hairstyle that you have donned?
Yeah, we've seen a
in
lot
your
of
lifetime.
Yeah. Well,
and hair.
yeah.
Your hair is phenomenal.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm truly envious. I mean, like, as everyone knows, you know,
there's nothing there.
lacking up there. So every time I stare at pictures of you, I'm like, God damn.
I'm a wanner, not a haver.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good.
You
It's
know?
hanging it. Listen,
He rocks it pretty good.
With a hat on, I'm good.
This is one of the few things I got that, and frankly, I got to rock it, but also I'm pretty fucking lazy. The mustache will be there depending on how much hair is accrued in the sink at that point in time, and what type of clog I'm looking at down the road. But I think a mustache or a handlebar is probably the most ideal.
Yeah.
When you're really feeling it.
100%.
But you know.
Did you dye your mustache at one point?
Yeah, we did do that. We were raising money for Movember, and this was back in like 2012 or some shit. But I think about bringing it back. I like the bleach. It almost looked like Taylor's, like that color right there.
The reddish brown.
Yeah, because this don't go blonde. No matter how much you bleach
They
it.
call that Sex Panther.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
Circle hooks or J hooks? We ask every single person this question.
Yeah, and I'm gonna freeze up like everybody else, but depending on the scenario, but I'm gonna go a circle over J for bait fishing. Obviously, I think circle. But I hear everybody say this. It's so tough. It's like if I had confidence in a good hook set with the J hook.
Yeah.
Trolling Canyon. J.
I'm becoming more and more confident with the hook set and fishing circle hooks, trolling for tunas in the canyons with them, not just billfish.
Really?
Because we've had so many bycatch yellowfins and big eyes while trying to pick out a white marlin.
Yeah.
As long as you're, in my opinion, approaching it the same way as live bait fishing for giants, at least the way that
Loose drag and you bring it up.
Loose drag, the whole thing. Make sure your tethers, your flatline clips, everything is dialed perfectly.
And
I can honestly say, like, I can think of one hand like short bites on a face rig circle hook on a tuna fish 50 pounds or bigger.
Really?
Yeah. Honestly.
I mean, the struggle is if you were trying to use a lure or
Lures,
a spread a bar,
story.
it's a whole different story.
I think dead bait, live bait, like you can pretty much get away with a circle hook on everything. As long as you're...
Yeah, I know guys were ringing them with shoots, too. They're putting big circle hooks.
Yeah.
You probably had to do it for tournaments, right?
Yeah. We did it with Damon and Tommy down in the Mid-Atlantic this past year. And, I mean, from what I gather, it's just lighter drag and pay attention.
Yeah.
That's
all it is.
That's a tough thing. It's tough to change up the shoot combo in the canyon from a hook that will work to...
Right.
So I guess unless it was a tournament, I probably would just go back to... used to do a lot of owners, the typical problem people have, they're chemically sharpened. So you can't, you could tweak them a little bit, you can, sharpen them up a little bit for that day. But as soon as that hits salt water, it's going to corrode. But, the mustad with the longer hook I found is, I like that. I mean, I like the longer hook because, I mean, if we're going to get into rigging later, but I like that hook placement. I like a bigger hook because you can get that when you seal it up at the top. The eye of the hook can still stay out. And that's just for me and my preference. My brother probably has no fucking idea I do that, but he probably preferred that it would be the owner hook. It's like what I did with Damon and stuff. He's like, oh, Matty, did you do that? It's like, yeah.
Put it in the water. Put it in the water.
As long as you're catching, it's fun. Yeah, get that fucking thing away. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
Speaking of tournaments, what's your favorite tournament up here in the Northeast to fish?
I think, we did the tri-state for years, and, that's lottery fishing to a degree, but good story about like the guy who owns our marina where like we keep our boat, Midnight Rambler, Jackson and stuff like that. His name's Frank, and he owns the boat Tammy Ann, and he fishes probably like 3 times a year and then just does maintenance on the marina himself, which is pretty impressive. But then he goes to tri-state, pre-fishes it once, and I shit you not, his office is it's like twice the size of this, but peppered with tri-state trophies, checks. He's won an absurd amount of money from that tournament. He fishes once or twice a summer. Can you fucking believe that?
Is it all luck?
And after hearing it, like I walked to his office, like I'm like, Frank, the fucking dumpster's full or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
we fished that thing for 10 years, harder, and doing it right with the right guys and in the right Calcuttas, and the closest we got was 4th biggest fish, and you don't get paid shit for that.
Yeah.
That's tough.
So
what are there, 250 boats in that tournament?
No. I think it's like a 80 boat tournament.
Oh,
it's 80, relatively small compared, like Mid-Atlantic's like 180.
That's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, but I love the Big Game Battle's awesome, dude. Like it's so much fun. Like the fact that
tournament,
it's a good. The honor system gets sketchy, but that's not a big money tournament. I know there's some Calcuttas, but that's fun fishing.
Just being in Nantucket at that time is amazing.
Dude, the nights after that tournament are berserk.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
So
boats
much
sinking. Boats sinking with people.
Usually get some good content.
I remember one year we go from like boat to boat party hopping at night, and like you could hear the music was so loud in the boats. Each boat had their own song, and you couldn't hear the next song until you were in the boat. You could be 15 feet from the boat, and you can't hear it because it's
mayhem.
Like just so many boats playing music.
One FOMO moment I have from Big Game Battle, I want to say it was like 2 or 3 years ago, was when Jimmy Buffett showed up like on the docks. I think it was like behind Hunt
that's
and
outrageous.
Harvest. And he was like hanging out with everyone and all that. It was when he had Last Mango, his boat.
Does he still have that?
The Freeman? Yeah, I believe so. But you guys like work with him and are affiliated with him, right?
With Jimmy? No, I mean, listen, if Jimmy's listening, we'd love to.
Kenny Chesney.
Oh, Kenny. Kenny. Yes, we are. We I haven't met him personally yet, but my partner Mike has back
cool.
When he was doing the tour. I think it was COVID put a stop to that, like almost. Is that like 2 years ago now, or a year? More than a year?
Yeah.
When did COVID start?
2019 almost 3 years
20.
now.
Into 20, yeah.
So yeah.
It's like 2.5 years.
It was like that. Wasn't like that spring line you guys had going into COVID when that whole affiliation started?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. So yeah, he's my understanding is he likes to fish and the opportunities out there anytime he wants to. But we're actually planning a trip to go down to Paradise Cove, Bahamas. So Kenny is obviously runs the foundation that we do for Deep, and this is a scenario where we provide eco clothing, and a portion of the proceeds goes back to no shoes reefs and rejuvenating the reefs, and it's a good cycle. And then the shirts are made of plastic bottles that are recycled, so it's it's a good story with it. But we're going down to Paradise Cove, supposed to be in 2 weeks. Can't find my passport right now.
No way.
We'll figure that out.
You can get an expedited replacement.
I heard for like a cool G.
Yeah,
it's $1,000.
Or you can drive to like up like Hodunk, Vermont or something and go get a new one. There's like,
dude,
one of the only places
figure it
around.
Out. This is driving me nuts because I know I moved once and I was like, I know it's a brand new crisp passport. I'm like, I know I put it somewhere.
Yeah.
It's eating at me. So I got to sort that shit out.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah. Yep.
Back on track.
Yeah.
What is your favorite canyon to fish?
I think Rhode Island's placed in a pretty awesome spot because, if you really want to go far east, you can. You'll know you won't have any traffic. Veach is probably the furthest west of those like eastern section that you can go without really dealing with a lot of, there's a lot of Connecticut, Montauk kind of all comes together, Rhode Island at that same point. And then, but I would say Veach Honestly, I don't get out to oceans or.
Who else said that? Damon.
I love Beach as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's close to
sick trips there.
Yeah, it's
Beach is sneaky.
It is. Lot of big blue marlin hooked in and around Beach. For me, anyway.
Big eyes.
Yeah.
It's also the closest one for like a boat coming out of like Falmouth or the islands, right?
Yep.
So yeah, this we usually try to play the traffic. And we're not fucking picky. You go where you can go at the time you have. But Veach is great. That little those notches in between Veach and Hydro that not a lot of people go over.
Right.
Yep.
They think they have to be in a canyon to catch fish, but
No.
the walls are a lot of times better
Yeah.
than canyons.
When I started with Damon and kind of learning the program, and he was the first one that I realized the flats are in play for a ton of shit.
Totally.
And when 10 a.m. on the second day shows up and he's like, pointing it back to Falmouth, we'd put 3 good hours in trolling in the flats and sometimes do our biggest damage. And, that's where you get your tip. But I was like, holy shit, we just got a blue marlin, a wahoo, and, a 6-bang or a
couple shots of whites.
Slob yellow. Yeah, whites, yellows. And so, I mean, don't sleep on the flats.
Totally.
Can't. That's a good
tip right there.
Yeah, we want to get back to it. Like,
Right.
I feel like the past couple years it's been 3,500 feet buoy, this, that.
Yeah.
When we started going back in
I
the
like
day.
fishing shallow, unless I'm big eye fishing, but everything else, you can pretty much catch everything else up shallow.
The biggest big eye our boats caught was it was in like 350 feet, 380 feet in Hudson. Yeah, because for some reason I don't know why, but they get together with the bluefin and stuff, and they don't go shallow. But it could be the time of year. But
yeah, they definitely mix.
Yeah, a lot of those like June, early July trips where you have a good shot at the Northeast Tuna Slam.
Yep.
A lot of it is in shallow shit.
Yeah, you're almost bluefin fishing, but
600
random big eye.
Yeah.
right on the slope. I remember the first time we hooked a giant in the canyon like 6 years ago, and went back there 3 weeks later, and they're still there. And it was right in that it's the 3rd week of June, 2nd week of July.
Yep.
That's like the most epic time to get out there.
If you want to hook a giant in the canyon, just put one of us on your boat. We don't have to touch anything.
Yeah.
Nothing.
It's like this automatic.
I don't know what the fuck.
Oh, you had one in the. It's
bad.
Was it with
We had one-
Opportunity in
Yeah,
the
back
OPC
to both of them.
Yeah.
Both two tournaments in a row.
Yeah,
Well,
I had one with
2 years in a
Miles.
row on the opportunity.
Yeah, and I think Billy had one last year in the Oak Bluffs.
Yeah.
We pulled into the tip of Hydro and it like looked good. There was sheer waters
Yeah.
and the temp like was almost a 70. I'm like, let's just throw them in. Like
one
fucking-
value in the
one
water.
value in the water, 650 pounder.
One fucking reel.
3.5 hours
Oh, yeah, just
later,
went
thought it was
deep.
a blue marlin, died,
50?
came up dead.
Yeah,
down to 50.
stand up.
Yeah. Yeah, what's his face?
IGFA, one
Were you
angler.
on the rod?
No, it was
No,
Matt Borg.
Matt Bork, he killed it. I mean, he had so much pressure on this fish. The rod was maxed out. The line was burning through the grip.
Like
before
literally
the first-
cutting.
Oh,
before
really?
The first
First
guy.
guy.
It was that folder. It was like a CMS
Oh,
50 to 80 class
Bending right at the
stick.
butt.
We were
Yeah.
putting like 40 pounds of heat on it because he was full hand in the spool. Like
Yeah, he did.
we couldn't touch it, but he was maxed full drag, hand the spool. It was a shit show.
It was fun though.
Matt Borg, nice job there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
He's a good
I'm
shit.
not envious of that position.
I'm not either.
Oh, dude.
I was like, didn't even want to look him in the eye at like hour 3. I was like, oh
Keep
god.
loading up waters and
Yeah.
oh my god.
Oh, it's funny. So you're also an athlete. Have been your whole life for the most part, it seems.
Sports are a big part of growing up. Don't
Yeah.
do shit now, but hockey was the biggest thing growing up.
You went to
I went to Avon Old Farms in
Yep.
Connecticut. That was for hockey. I went to a high school and it's a private school in Providence that was a good school. And parents trying to do the good thing where they're like, sports,
Right.
yes, very important. I understand it, but you gotta do well in school. I'm like, well, I'm an idiot, and no teacher's gonna want me. They're not gonna convince me I want to be here. My brother is naturally smart, just wouldn't fucking do the work. And he was cool with that. He would get by and whatever, and on brains alone. But like, I learned a different way, and it was just the effort putting in was just tough to keep doing. So when it came down to the teachers at this school in Providence, they were good. Then eventually got to a point where it was like, all right, if I'm taking a sport seriously, I got to go where the hockey and maybe there's both. Yeah. And that's ultimately what I had to convince my parents of. But Avon was it was like the hockey school at the time. And I get there.
Good lacrosse program.
Yeah, it was all good. But at the time, it was funny because I always loved lacrosse.
Yeah.
Hockey was starting to feel like work. Lacrosse was just like, oh, this seems like something I really enjoy doing. And when you only play like 5 games a year and then you do like 2 summer camps, it's like there's no stress around it. It was fun.
Yeah.
And looking back, I realize I don't watch a lot of hockey anymore. Like I love playoff hockey. I mean, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Eventually you get to a point where it's like, man, my life is hinged on making this fucking team.
Yeah.
And I get there. So this is a funny fact about me. 6 years of high school.
6 years of high school.
2 of them elected because I needed to. So I repeat. I was a year
We're
young.
opening up a can of worms.
I
love it.
Yeah,
Nothing better.
So I'm like 13 going into freshman year. So that's young for any freshman. So when I repeated my junior year at Avon, I'm in my normal grade. I go in, my roommate's fucking 195 pounds, jacked, shirt off, like oiled up, like, and he's about to go to the weight room. And there's a whole fucking fleet of them coming down the hallway. It was like the meat factory annex of the dorm. And I'm like, oh, Mom, Dad, like, you're not going to fucking want to hear this, but I think I need to do another fucking year. And they're like, okay, sweetie, why don't we just like, see how you do? And I'm like, I'm going to tell you how I'm going to do. So I make the team that year. There was like 180 kids tried out for like fucking 10 spots. And I make it by the skin of my teeth. I'm like, all right. Very huge. I learned the game again because I realized I hadn't been coached like really well. So it took a while to find my footing. And that time, like, lacrosse opened up some more doors and it took to it more naturally. And that's that.
So did you start playing lacrosse at Avon or prior to that?
No, I was playing, probably started in 6th grade. My older brother started playing in like 8th grade. And it's one of those sports that you don't need. It's like basketball. Like you could just dribble anyware.
Yeah.
And that's, if you like doing that, it's easy to get good at it.
Hockey.
If you know how to handle the ball.
Totally.
Yeah.
Lacrosse is so much easier in my eyes because stick handling in hockey, I mean, you're still not possessing it. Like you're not holding it. When lacrosse, like you could, it's like, holy shit, I can run this whole fucking thing down there and score.
Totally.
Without running the risk of losing possession. I don't know. And then, when you're 14, you start growing. And in my case, like 18, things start, I learned how to get the crap kicked out of me my whole life. And then when you finally get to like, normal man size, it's, things started clicking a little bit easier and just opened up more doors for college. And so I had to make a tough choice. My senior year is best year for hockey, but cool. You got to go where, college is going to open the doors.
Then you went to Hobart.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Probably in hindsight, probably should have taken a couple of the scholarship offers to other places, but girlfriend was in Central New York at the time, so I was like, oh, but
always a girl.
Oh, fucking A. But no, the real appeal is like they had a really good D3 hockey team, and I was like, I'm not ready to give up on it yet. I was like, shit, what if I wanted to do both? That'd be badass. Yeah. And you get up there, and the hockey team's sick too. Like they're playing 12 games into lacrosse season, so I wouldn't have been able to do one well. So it's a good problem to have, but I needed a change.
That's cool.
Hockey's exhausting. I'm sure you guys know the time commitment that comes with that.
Totally.
It's ridiculous.
It scares me.
Yeah.
It scares me. It's like being a hockey parent. Like I felt bad. I feel bad now for like my dad driving all the way to work to drive back. And I'm like, I got a house league game at 7 p.m. in Smithfield, which is like back up north. It's like, dude, I feel bad I did that to you. He's like, no, I mean, you liked it.
The whole dynamic of rink time in comparison to what like the logistics of lacrosse, it's like completely different animal.
I mean, lacrosse has its traveling teams and things like that, but it's nowhere near what like, hockey
tournaments
is.
And stuff. But like,
same with basketball.
Right, there's definitely a more relaxed vibe to it for sure.
Yeah, it's less specialized. I mean, you get guys that can play, whatever kids can play different sports and also be. I feel like hockey, it's like all
it overlaps.
Everybody's like, oh yeah, you want to play more sports now. You want to. The idea is around like you're learning different qualities from, you play basketball, you play soccer, but you're the man at hockey. Right. Coaches want to know what you look like as the what's your second sport? How do you behave like when you're not the man? Like, you know, what do you bring to the table, and are you okay not playing? So a lot of coaches would start, when over specialization happened, would start recruiting. All right, what's your other trick? Like, how do you do playing basketball? So you just can't do that with hockey. You can't.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be all in and traveling.
Fully committed.
It's a family thing too. And I'm like, dude, I like to fish. I like to fish a lot more now. You better be really good.
How did you find your way playing for the Canyons?
Yeah, that was, so coming from, when I graduated Hobart, the league went down from like 12 teams to 6. So the talent pool just got completely consolidated. So I was like, fuck, dude, there's no way that I'm going to get drafted and a chance to play. Well, good thing about lacrosse is that they needed the best product out in the field. And training camp, not drafted, or, you know, drafted overall, you were easily cut, or you had the same shake at it. So yeah, I got an invite to training camp. Before that, I walked on to the Boston indoor team, which is the Boston Blazers. They played at the Garden. It was like probably the peak of my career.
I used to go to them.
I think I went to the first, like when it like came back to Boston. There was like kind of a pause, right, in indoor lacrosse.
Yeah.
I went to like the first game. It was savage, dude. Fights and stuff right off the rip.
Yeah.
I was like addicted.
It was like
to
professional hockey and lacrosse mix. That's what it is, pretty much.
Yeah, my peak athlete moment was just, I didn't even dress. I was just up in the stands. I had a Garden parking pass. I was like, oh, this is fucking sweet. Have some beers up there or whatever. Yeah. It's my first game I'm watching, and I had never played before, but it helped me learn a lot of like skills. You work in a smaller space, so you learn how to be more, you know, proficient with stick handling and shit. But the first game, I'm there in the suit. I'm like, all right, this is fucking great. Let's watch the game. I'm up there with another American. He went to Middlebury, so this is his first experience with box too. But we made it through the 6-week training camp, which was grueling, and we're like, all right, I forget we were playing, but I'm down in the locker room. There's an offensive guy that he's spraying the fucking Tuf skin on his knuckles. It was the stuff that held the pre-wrap to your ankles.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, what are you doing here, Cotter? Because like, what the fuck is that? And he's an offensive guy. So I'm like, all right, you're not really the guy to be doing this. But he's like, yeah, well, there's a little thing we have to settle. I was like, okay. So I fucking like run up to the top of the box, and it wasn't more than 5 seconds in after the face-off, all 5 guys just fucking, and it was, I'm like, all right, these guys are going to fall down at some point.
Right.
You're on turf, and you're on turf shoes. This isn't ice. This is plant, go, 5 guys. The refs are like, and this is at the Garden.
Yeah,
that's why you went, because
it was amazing.
It was mayhem.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy fuck. I need to fucking be the fucking NESCAC kid next to me. We're like, oh, fuck, you guys are fucking boxing lessons. Holy shit. But it was like,
dude, that must have been
I go down there, and they're the boy. Like, yeah, these are like, it's like 90% Canadian, so you're learning a different culture over there. Right. And I'm down there, and there's the jerseys are torched. Like they can't even wear. They're pulling out replacement jerseys, and there's blood everywhere. I'm like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Wow. Dude. It was mind blowing. So yeah, that went. You know, they went defunct. I think like the next season after that. Yeah. They just, you know, the expansion went to another location, but it was a very good learning experience and toughened you up.
I would have shit my pants, dude.
Yeah,
I would have probably just been like, nope.
Yeah, I'm all set.
Oh, that's the thing. Like, if it's like the unwritten rule, if you go out there and it's a lot of hockey rules.
I mean, you grew up playing hockey, so it's kind of like, you already kind of were ready.
I understand. Yeah, I understand.
But it's not really. It's not really the norm growing up playing lacrosse until you play box, really.
Yep.
You know?
And that's why I think it's tough. I mean, that's part of the growing up in Canada. Like, you just drop them and go, and you forget about it.
Yeah.
Probably some more people could learn from that.
We should do that in Bank. We should do that in Stellwagen.
That, like, they're all either like oil field, come from like oil field lineage, fishermen.
Yeah, they're all
like,
beasts.
They all
Halifax,
have like, engine blocks, your hands.
I think we should just show up on Southwest Corner in the morning. All the boats just go bow to bow. You know, just beat the living shit out of each other.
Duke it out for the spot.
And whoever's like the 10 boats that are left are allowed to fish the bank.
I like that. God. I like that.
I remember I chipped off the helmet in a pregame practice of the enforcer on the team. Who he liked me, but I saw the fear of fucking God in my own eyes. when I accidentally took his helmet off playing in like it's like, dude, I'm on the bench. Like I got to do something, but I maybe should have picked a different person to, check into the boards. And he looked at me and he was like, I was like, I'm all good. Yep, got it. You're gonna just check the balls. But he fucking 6'5" and like just rangy, and it was just no chance in hell I would even get a shot.
Yeah, no. So. He's just sitting there holding your head.
Yeah, it was like,
God, that is hilarious.
Yeah.
Wow.
What was your specialty?
So for me, I was lucky because the position I had was just like, it's not really the most sexual fucking position to have on a lacrosse team. So, but the good thing was that there was always frequent openings because it was kind of a tough position to play. And that was, D-midi. So you're frequently getting roasted. You just had to get over the fact that each game you were going to give up goals, but how many? And that was the name of the game then. It was possessions. Like the guys were so good at possessing the ball. So I picked up ground balls. That was like probably the biggest thing I brought to the table and gave me an opening to make a roster spot was because those possessions are so important and there's so few of them, there's so few change of possessions, to be able to get that ball to the best player on the team was valued skill. I mean, it wasn't something you wanted to do all the time. I mean, you put on a ton of miles, but it was valued, and it was allowed me an opportunity to play right away.
I will say we both play lacrosse pretty much. I played all the way through college.
Yeah, you played a bunch too.
Halfway through college.
Taylor played half.
And then you stopped and like, I'm done.
Box, camps, like it was a huge part of our life growing up. I will say the stoke factor, in my opinion, on a big defensive play versus like a goal, even like a critical goal, OT, whatever, I feel like it was always like that much more charged up.
Yeah.
It's weird because it can be overlooked, but it's like...
But when people notice it,
one of the most important things
100%.
On the field.
There's a highlight of you playing for the Cannons where you do like every coach in like high school and or college probably would have fucking screamed at you.
Yep, that happened.
But you pulled it off so smooth, get the ball, possession, whatever. I've watched it probably like 30, 40 times.
Oh, geez. This sounds personal.
The kid goes to like...
This sounds
not
weird.
many of these out there. Trust me. Usually the highlight reels are me getting fucking scorched.
No,
ankles broken. But every once in a while, you were able to connect on one.
I'll probably get the dodge wrong, but like the kid like splits from like right to left or something, and you were opened up to like basically give him the lane to the middle, and he fucking overhead checks him like not an ice pick, but with the head of his stick.
Yeah.
And completely freaking smokes this kid. Like the kid's basically standing there with like nothing in his hands, standing still, and Smalley's like already up the field. It's pretty awesome.
That's cool.
I know that one, and that particular so small.
He's like, that happened once.
I was like, I fucking know exactly what you're talking about. It's a very small sample size. You had to get good at getting roasted, but every once in a while you had like the opportunity to make a play, and if you make a defensive play, like that ball's got to go another 80 yards, and you're the only one doing it. So they encourage transition. They definitely do not encourage that fucking check to give the guy in the middle of the field one of their best goal scorers. But he had talked a lot of shit.
Yeah,
he had been talking a lot of shit, and we went and there's only so much back talk you can give him, and I was like, "Fuck this, dude." I was like, it was one of my last few games, and I knew that the kid was fucking fast, and he had broken my ankles for sure a few times, and I was like, "Fuck it."
Who is he? Do you know?
Yeah, Drew Snyder.
Snyder.
He was
Drew, if you're listening,
Drew.
go after
he
yourself, got the best
Drew.
of you there.
Listen, Drew handled it like a champ on social media when that one went around.
Really?
He did. He still doesn't talk to me, even though I commented on all of it. But yeah, that was a good one to have landed because there's so many times where my coach is like, "You fucking can't do that.
Yeah.
You absolutely can't do that." And every once in a while, habits are hard to break.
Once you get to that level, there's definitely got to be do's and don'ts of checks and
it's
how risky you can be, right?
It's situational, and maybe I didn't play it right, but I had to give him the middle of the field to eventually make the play. But yeah, he gave it to me. He's shorter, so you can get away with that. I just had a lot of time playing against that.
Wait, he's shorter?
Yeah, he was shorter.
He was like, dude, his elbow. If the listeners watch this, YouTube it. His elbow coming over his head, like I'm talking, is like less than like a half an inch off the top of his helmet, making the check. Like it's so smooth and clean. It's nasty.
Yeah.
It's nasty.
Brian's getting a little excited in the corner.
Hey, I miss the lax a little bit.
Yeah. I do too. I wish I could play the men's league without fucking, you can't turn it off. Like,
right.
There's one thing I found out about myself. There's one speed, and I was either going to fucking kill myself trying to keep playing, or I was going to do it in men's league trying to fight some guy because he cross-checked me or whatever. It's like at some point you got to hang him up.
Balance it.
I love coaching though. I want to get back into that at some point. That's
who or what did you coach for?
I coached Cumberland High School for a while when I was playing, and again, same thing. It's tough to half-ass coach, and it's 3 hours a day, peak season, and
it's tough.
Seasons during your work season.
Yeah.
You can't. So I did some private lessons and stuff, but I would love to get back to just being like a volunteer, part-time, local high school.
Yeah.
It's so much more popular now that.
Likewise. I used to love like at Maritime and off season summer in between fishing, we'd coach camps, and
it's fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. It was a good gig, filling in the summer jobs and stuff, but it's people. I have good buddies that are, full-time, making good money working for lacrosse education or sports education companies. I mean, that's become a big thing now.
Just the amount of companies that have picked up on the gear and stuff. Like there was STX, Brine, and Warrior when we started playing. That was it.
That was.
Really. Some hockey companies had like a couple products here, and now there's like
every hockey company is involved.
It's insane.
Everything.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, lacrosse is fun.
Yeah, good time.
Back to fishing.
Mm-hmm.
We paused this episode for a quick announcement for one of our good friends and fellow charter captains, Jesse Martello. Jesse's son, Jesse Jr., was recently diagnosed with an aggressive form of leukemia called T-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And while the outlook for Jesse is optimistic, the battle is just beginning. The doctor's initial prognosis indicates that Jesse Jr. is in for a fight that could last 3 years, with chemotherapy and many hospital visits, during what should be the prime years of his youth. And Jesse's an avid fisherman. He mates regularly for his dad and their charter business, Think Big Charters, aboard their boat Necessary Expense. They fish from Connecticut to the Northeast Canyons. They tuna fish. They're a part of our community, and they're great people. Jesse Jr. also enjoys playing soccer, basketball, lacrosse. He races go-karts. He skis, he snowmobiles. It's really sad that he has to deal with this at this point in his life, but we're here to support Jesse, and we're hoping that you all can take a moment and help support him as well. Right now, Jesse's family faces uncertainty with medical costs and other financial burdens associated with treating this disease. And to help ease the burden, there's been a website that's been set up to help facilitate fundraising efforts and help aid Jesse Jr.'s family and the entire Martello family with expenses that they're going to face during this battle. So if you take a moment and visit thinkbigjesse.com, that's thinkbigjesse.com. Starting on February 15th, there's going to be a series of raffles and auctions for some really great items and some charters, Penn and Real Easy Custom Rods. They're donating reels, rods. There's many other sponsors and supporters on there, many of which have sponsored and supported the podcast as well. And we just hope you take a moment to go on the website and support a great cause for a great kid. So again, visit thinkbigjesse.com and feel free to donate and participate in any of the raffles and the silent auctions. So we have a lot of commonalities, I think, between our families, both being fishing families and stuff. Yep. I mean, I obviously know our story, but how did
you and your family get to be at the canyon fishing, giant bluefin, heavily focused in offshore? Kind of give us like the Reader's Digest of young Matt to now.
Yeah, I think it goes back to like, you learn from your dad. And I loved going with him. He was back then, he was the guy waking us up to do, like we do have a great striped bass fishery in Rhode Island. And what we did typically was, drift eels at night or chunk them up behind the Southwest Ledge. And he was really into it. And I noticed, and he got me into it, but I noticed that he had wasn't less drive to go, but it was harder for him to get away to go. And it ended up by becoming a little bit more stress to go. He loved offshore fishing. We got into that through a guy that caught him in the 80s off of Rhode Island and off the Cape. And he did the whole thing. So we learned he taught us a bunch of stuff, but it wasn't anything like it is now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But so he introduced us, my first bluefin was off, within sight of Block Island. It was like a 20 pounder. And I just remember being so fucking juiced, just so pumped. Remember the thing hit the prop, saw the prop take a chunk out of it. Just pulling. We had Senators with roller guide tips that he redid.
Yeah.
And I remember like a few trips we got into like, albacore out there and catching like 15 of them at like, 9, 10 years old with these rods. And it's come so far, but short answer, my dad got us into it, and Danny always loved, being out there on the boats, but you get to like 14. So I'm like 10, he's 14. He doesn't want to do what dad does. So he started, college work. He got into the work, grind earlier than I did, but eventually probably his early 20s, he started, running a boat, but it was mostly just, fucking around and drinking and stuff. But he started getting into fishing like hardcore, probably around like 22, 23, 24. But he just didn't want to do it. We didn't really get together as a group and do it until probably like his mid 20s. So I'm like late teens. And that's late in the game for.
It's kind of similar.
Sort
of similar to us.
Yeah.
Because you can imagine Taylor, like, when you get to that age of a teenager, you're just distracted with certain shit, and you don't have enough success fishing to pull you in to get you. And like, I have buddies that are like, oh, I wish my kid was more into it. It's like, dude, he's a fucking teenager.
Yeah.
I mean, interested in like two things.
There was a phase Brian definitely wasn't into fishing nearly like I was.
Yeah.
But then once my dad got a lot more serious, especially when we started getting into the shark and tuna game, it kind of like I think it reignited Brian, and Brian came back. Like he went to the same thing you guys did, which sounds like your older brother, where he ventured off from what dad's doing, and I was still doing what dad's doing during the beginning part of the charter. Not even really the charter thing. It was probably a little before that.
It's like right when Mass Bay Guides started.
Yeah. So what's that? 99. So. Yeah. 22 years ago.
Same exact thing though. I was definitely the Dan.
Yeah, 100%.
Sure.
Yeah.
And now he's equally obsessed, possibly more obsessed than I am at this point.
You come around to it, but it's also how do you coexist with like three guys on a boat that and even if you're 10 or 14, you're with your brother and your dad, you're gonna fucking argue. And like eventually you get to a point where you don't wanna argue. And then the time passes and that phase is out, and now you actually like each other. I tell everybody all the time. My brother didn't look at me as like, oh, you're not too fucking bad, until like I was like 16. Yeah. I was like, oh, thank you. That's like, it's mighty big of you. Like always had my back, would always help me for anything, but it was the tough love older brother until we got to like that. All right, you're a human and I like watching your games, so we're gonna. I suppose we'll hang out on the boat now.
Sharing a few epic moments together as you get older helps with that a little bit. Of course. Be it a big fish, a big game, whatever. And
then it's just it takes a while to figure out. What I found was my focus was sports, all this other stuff. So I lost the opportunity to learn a lot of like hands-on shit that goes into making the whole picture happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm not funding the venture of our family boat, but you can do other stuff to offset the pain in the ass shit the guy with the cash or the guy with the knowledge and know-how knows how to do. And it's a long process to change what they think you're good at. And that's what I found was, dude, we've had honest talks about like, all right, those phases are done. Those distractions are gone. This is a focal point. I want to take it seriously. But it took like literally till it was like fucking 30-ish for us to look at each other. We're like, we're both not going anywhere. We're both going to have a fun time out here. But there's
familiar.
There's a few fucking details we need to get worked out. Yeah. Right, Dan? But, there's no better person that I'd want to fish with.
Right.
But you do have to work that shit out. Like
you have to.
You do, or else you just like there's no person on earth that you'd want to hug and choke at the same fucking time.
Yeah.
That your family, dude. You're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. So we got to figure this shit out. And if your dad's anything like mine, my dad's like, listen, you idiots figure it out. Yeah. Like, but eventually,
sounds more like a brotherly thing for you.
Yeah. Well, we.
Not the father's son.
No. Like, yeah. Yeah. Well, meaning like, what do you mean? So you mean like?
So you sound like you want to hug and choke your brother.
Oh yeah.
Or is it your brother and your dad?
No. Old man, my dad is, if he comes out 3 or 4 times a year,
yeah,
it's, it'll be all about him. We always invite him.
Yeah.
He's a boat guy. Like he grew up sailing, but also hated sailing, loved fishing. He loves fishing, but what we found out is that we got to treat it like a charter. We got to treat it like a charter.
Yeah.
And this is, he's getting people bringing him like food when he's like sunk in the beanbag. I'm like, holy shit. Like this is not normally how we do it. But, he's at the end of the day, we don't have that opportunity to go unless, he's around. And so, yeah, although we'd love to get it. So he's getting more hands-on with a lot of this stuff, but...
This is funny.
I know, dude. But it's like, he hops on, it's autopilot. It's like, runs the boat hard, and then you see Dan starting to like, oh my fucking God, it's not the fucking RPMs you're supposed to fucking do. And I'm over there back, like, acting like I'm 12 again, into trash, like, fucking, like, just trying to occupy I just stay out
I'm
there.
going to put this big mustad in the water while you guys deal with that.
No shit. So that's always a work in progress because they work together too every single day.
Yeah.
So, but it's been awesome the past like 3-4 years when you get the boat to where you want it to be.
Right.
You know what works. You've registered enough success to, all right, we can talk more game plan now, not why are we doing this?
Yeah,
you've already seen enough.
You're strategizing.
You've all proved each other. Prove yourselves.
Yeah, and he's gotten, yeah. So to be honest, the dynamic on the boat is mostly my brother and I, but I have to, for a long time, a lot of the maintenance that requires being taught or learning or having a natural, engineering mind, like he's got that. Like my brother's got that.
Yeah.
If I have it, I'd love for it to surface at some point, but we already covered the schooling background. But I found as I've gotten more, hands-on the past few years, like you run the boat yourself, you have to solve shit yourself. There's nobody else out there.
That's it.
And you've fished with, enough other people where you've probably been able to bring a lot of that into the table too.
Absolutely. So when we met Tommy, and Tommy covered that. We met him down in Outer Banks. I want to say it was like 2010 or something, 11, maybe 2012. And we're up in the bridge. It's like de Blasio, and my dad's like talking fucking de Blasio's ear off. And I'm like, who's this quiet kid that's not a redneck down here? And we started talking, and we went to Fairfield, and I was like, oh, no shit. So he was friendly. They shared a bunch of info and, learned a couple things that we should be doing up north. And that's how we started hanging out with Tom. And I think it was that very spring I started working with Damon. And, ton of credit to that program. And there's not many boats that go out, do every single species with the type of technicality that he likes to fish. So
Damon travels too. I mean,
Oh, literally our boat, no big eyes up until, after that year of learning a few things. Yeah, that changed. That absolutely fast tracked.
He's a fishy dude.
Oh, I mean, yeah, incredibly fishy dude, and has a program that works. It's nothing crazy complicated, but he's learned how to do it his way with one of the first guys that fishes teasers all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like the first time I got them, I'm like, what the fuck are these things?
Yeah, why don't they have hooks in them?
Yeah, wait. I'm not putting that in.
These don't have
They don't
hooks
catch
in them?
fish?
I'm not putting that in the water.
This would look much better with a 12-0 Mustang.
Yeah, right in the back of that thing. So there's no question that was when I got the call to go, hey, Maddie. And I looked at my fucking...
You do a good Damon.
Yeah, I know. I don't fucking tell him, though. I'm sure he's going to find out. So, Maddie, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and, you're going to learn a lot. You'll be able to take a bunch back with you. And, it's part of the program. You talk to Johnny. He'll tell you. So I go talk to John, right? Because some people are like, oh, we might be hard on you. I'm like, oh, well, what's... Like Galvin, tell me, what's a hard captain on a mate? And he's like... I don't know. He's like, you've been yelled at by fucking coaches? And I'm like, yeah, still currently. I'm
not even playing anymore.
Just this morning, you should have seen the email exchange. And I was like, yeah. He's like, will that bother you? I'm like, no. And everything was fine since. It took a while to figure out, because speaking of OCD, I mean, that's, in my opinion, is what makes you good, because it's, you can't catch fish when your boat's a fucking mess and you don't have a coherent game plan. So what was the hardest thing for me was how to manage, to know what Damon liked. And that's with any captain. So if there's any mates out there, are you trying to go work on a boat? Like, you're gonna fucking, it's a service job, first of all.
Yeah.
You're a glorified waiter.
Yeah. That's all. And frankly, I think that's the biggest, any kid about to get a job should work in a fucking restaurant. And if they do decent at that and happen to like that lifestyle, come on down to the cockpit.
Great at being a
Why
mate.
don't you come down and be on the boat? Because it's like, how willing are you to do the most undesirable task before the other guy? And that's why it was so cool, like fishing with Billy, Eddie Sakala. I never fished with Tyler out there, Slick, Tom. All the same types of guys that, they'll stay up later than you. And they'll do the trash, they'll do the whatever, and then the fishing is like the last part that comes together. But I had to get comfortable learning how to manage Damon's temperament as far as his expectations and what he liked, what set him off, and
right.
we covered that.
I think
we covered that a little bit. And when he yelled at you, it was nothing but like, I got fucking laugh. Like when we're on a battle with the fish for a little bit, I just like getting heckled the whole time, and I'm like. They fucking yelled at you, dude. Oh my God. Did you fucking hear that? But the cool part about it was like right after good, bad, and different, he's talking to you like, on the level after. Like, hey, Maddie, you got to smoke? Yeah. And it's like, we'd sit there and just talk about it. Like, it didn't even happen. And I'm cool with that because I like people that have a pulse out there. And the one thing I figured out is he's super competitive. He likes to do well. He likes to perform. And fuck, dude, I can't knock that. I want to be around that.
Absolutely.
So he taught us a ton for sure. A lot of moving, around.
Yeah. I feel like we have moments like that all the time.
Yeah.
Probably to even more of an extreme level at times, I would say. Not you and I, but
I had a few moments with
more Dad and I. It's more Dad and I.
Oh,
so you have a
100%.
little dynamic where you butt heads with your own man?
So it's a little different because OG's still the fearless leader, and like the family business is the charter business. So it's like, it's almost like he's the oldest sibling at times. I feel like,
yeah. He's not, you don't have to serve him, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more of how do we explain
Does he
this?
participate a good amount?
He does.
Offers input.
He does.
We call it upper
He
we call it upper management on our boat.
Too much.
I think he's the perfect balance, honestly. He lets us do what we do. He does not like it. The only time he touches a rod is if like Taylor and I are both busy.
Yeah.
And then a fish bites, like he'll do what he needs to do, and he's usually pretty flawless at it. But
he focuses on his job.
He focuses on the spot.
Try to control the other items.
His surroundings, really. Yeah. That's why he's up on the roof all the time.
Right.
I see a lot of pics of him up there getting some Z's and hanging out. Now, I'm sure, he'll run the boat.
That's changed,
kind of fills
though.
the gaps.
That's changed a lot. Like over the last 15 years, he's morphed from trying to do both. He kind of had to be a captain and a mate.
Yeah.
But now that we're running and working boats, it's definitely I don't think he tied a knot on a rod last year.
Not at all.
You know, like he focuses on the boat, the safety, the mechanical stuff. That's all always in the back of his head.
And you have to split that responsibility up because
you can't do too much.
That's what I figured out. Is like, dude, you play in a team sport. Like, if you want to get back and forth safely, first of all, like that's probably the difference that what my brother taught me was, I love the end game. I love that side of it was like the first love, and then you develop appreciation of how you fucking got there,
right?
And like how fast you got there, and who paid for that, and then just how much. You know, how the oil changes, the maintenance, all the other stuff that I've been lucky to get more intimate with over the past few years. But it's only when you have like, you know, the experience to go and then the time to devote to it. So if you're diluted with a bunch of different hobbies, or it's tough to get, like, it's like, you know, family work, boat. Yeah. If you want it to go well, and if you want it to go smooth, because you know, I know it was important for him to see the effort for me to be down there before him to get all the shit checked out and to help with the changes and the fluids and anything else. And to see that focus there kind of eased up the, all right,
you focus on that, I'll focus on this. Yeah.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we've gotten good at, you know, opening up more communication and being like, all right, you know, what do you think about this over here?
Communication is key.
Yep.
And
that's the most, aside from being OCD, well, you have to be OCD about communication, but aside from that, I feel like that's like the one.
That's what makes you argue if you don't know who's doing what.
Yeah.
You be like, what the fuck? It's like, before you know,
or I was going to do it that way.
Yeah. Yep. It was funny. Like I had one of my teammates from the Cannon join me like this past summer, and he hadn't been giant fishing, and he was like, because when you bring charters out there too, you know, you guys know this better than anybody. Like you want to talk to them like they're a fucking human, but also you don't know what you're doing. So allow me to tell you exactly how I'm doing it clearly. So you get good at just like communicating like you would on a field or on the ice or whatever. And my buddy goes, "Did you think that like your skills from here or whatever your experience here would carry?" I didn't really think of that, and I was like, because you set things off on edge when you act like you're fucking something up. Someone else is fucking something up, and they're paying you for the day to be there. It's like, I really got to go out of my way to fucking know what I'm going to say beforehand.
Right.
Even though I'm talking gibberish.
100% have to think before you speak.
Yeah.
You're like, please do not touch that rubber band. That rubber band is very important. Let go of the fucking rubber band. Don't touch the rubber band. Fucking. And yeah.
And they'll sit there and they flick it.
Yeah.
Or
what's this do? What's this do?
Yeah. It's like the perfect harmony of
where's the drag?
Educating people and being really good at sarcastic jokes.
Yeah, the passive aggressive. I mean, that's got to be exhausting for you guys to.
I love it though.
You meet new
honestly,
people.
I think the thing I like about charter fishing the most is I get to, you know, in a different way every day, show people exactly what I'm completely obsessed with.
Yeah.
And you have to navigate that communication and that approach to people differently every single day. So it's not the same over and over.
Yep.
And it brings anybody down to your level. Well, not your level expertise, but you're down to what you're doing for the day. It's like they could be some crazy lawyer or on some $1 billion business, but at the end of the day, you're treating them like, you know.
Yeah, I know Zajac touched on that a little bit. Like the playing field is level. So you could be a degenerate mate.
It's below you, too. That's the other thing.
Yeah. And you are in that instance, for the
most part,
middle management. We like to call it upper management, upper middle management, and then fucking deckhand or whatever.
Yeah.
And to get a guy that's a CEO of something, like enamored with the process, and say you had an early bite, and it's cool to watch someone like that act like a kid.
Oh, yeah.
And that excitement, there'll be nothing that replaces hooking up, getting someone tight on a fish that you've wanted to get a fish for a long time is like the coolest feeling. To be able to do that every day has got to be sick, though.
It is cool. I mean, there's heartbreaking moments and there's times that it's draining, when you can't connect the dots, but usually the good way outweighs the bad.
And you got to have customers now that are, guys, don't worry, I'll see you in 4 weeks. Like, we'll
100%.
do it again. That's cool.
And it's those customers that eventually get to this streak of like, oh, they're on the boat, we're gonna get one today.
Diego has gone, just for an example, he's done like 28 charters and he has like 40 something tunas with us.
We've only had one skunk day with him.
Out of 28 trips.
One skunk
And then you get someone like Justin, who we've mentioned before in this podcast. He's gone like 10 trips and he's gotten 2 bites, I think. 2 fish.
Yeah, that's
why
it always happens. I remember, I did a fraction of the amount of charters you guys do, but like, I remember being like, oh my fucking God, like this guy's coming again. Are we gonna where are we going, Damon? I'm like, this temp is the temp is up. I'm like,
dude, that pressure is you cannot.
And he's sitting
replicate
there,
it.
and I remember him. He's like a big sailor, and he's sitting there all proper and like just very rigid. And I remember he liked smoking cigarettes. I'm like, yeah, man, we should have have one. And please don't like get mad at me today. I don't feel it today at all. I really hope we're gonna get something. Yeah. The customers are cool, and then you end up you find out these guys have real important jobs, and eventually down the line, you're probably going to use them as a resource, and it's a real networking ability. It's 100%. For sure.
We were talking about that before we even started this. It's like I have clients that are doing electrical work, plumbing on the house. You have guys, job references, whatever else. Like the relationship building alone is pretty incredible.
Yep. No, that's the truth of it.
Let's get into his season.
Yeah,
I'm dying to hear.
This is my favorite part, the technical part. So you guys have been putting all of what we've said together. I know we've gone off on a lot of tangents. And it's been awesome, a lot of laughs. But you guys clearly flow as a family. You, Dan, when your dad's on the boat, you guys produce. The last, I want to say 3-4 years, you've, from our perspective, seen a significant uptick in big, giant bluefins down in your neck of the woods.
Yep.
Take us through that. Kind of give us like the summary of what's going on and then what your typical trip looks like.
Yeah, I think probably going back to like 2018 was, I remember being down at ICAST and, talking about trade shows earlier, like, humping stuff around. Then I get Mark DeCabe is on his phone. And he's down there for Penn, helping out with us. And he's like, dude, it's going off right near you right now. I'm like, what? I'm like, what do you mean? And, there's always been prospecting before. The fish were probably there before him, but this is the Cox's Ledge bite. And it went on for a couple weeks. Bunch of local boats were able to get some fish. And, there's certain groups of guys that would probably normally be fishing up near you on the bank or the bay.
Right.
We typically always migrated up to the bay. Partly it was just, I had some confidence just from fishing with Damon in the bay. And Stellwagen is like another 19 miles or so.
Yeah. And I'm sure your bait, you feel confident because you're able to get bait and bring it there.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. And so I remember Danny went out with a few guys. I think Slick and Tommy were there. Lost a couple fish, got a fish. Jackson got a double. Midnight Rambler got 2 or 3 fish in that chunk of time. And, by the time I got back, and I'm driving a fucking trailer back, like literally all through the night, going through like Florida, Virginia Beach. And I'm like, I get back to the U-Haul place, which isn't far from here. We ended up by going out like, it was 2 weeks after the bite. And, I took 2 buddies from college and it just happened. One of those trips, it just happened to work out. It was like a night bite. We went to where it looked good. We got out there at night and 3 a.m., just the only boat out there, got a fish, it was a nice fish, 106. And I'm like, after it was sick, but you process it. You're like, dude, there was so much bait there. Why did people stop fishing this? So that kind of just, at least for us, it started, a lot of people, the bites down near us we don't have, this is just my theory and speculation. We don't have the structure.
We love theory and speculation.
Yeah. Specialties. We have whales. We don't have, the sharp banks with macks and herring stacked up. We have whales. So, the early part of the year, if you're trying to find them by, whenever it opens in June, you're whales. Prospecting they come up somewhere near Montauk to the Hudson Canyon and sometimes further east, but a lot of times you can stumble on them migrating up, but they settle in somewhere in June on sand eels for the most part. And sand eels are tough because they're good and bad because they're plentiful and the whales aren't going to wipe them out in just like a couple weeks. But the good side is, you put a bluefish or a bait out that's legit next to that. It's usually, you can get a lot of, you can get those bites. But the tough thing we deal with is, the non-commercial fleet or the fleet that's targeting the smaller fish, because they're frequently mixed. And I hadn't seen really that before. It's like, you get your giants by going where giants live. You go up to Cape Cod, you go to the bank, and it's, these fish are, 200 at the smallest to, over 1,000. And it was unique to see that mixed in. And that's, I think, because of the whale life. And it was tricky because you're not anchoring, you're fishing, your basic bait is bluefish or whatever else you can get. They obviously love bluefish down near us. I know they love them up, up in like Wood End in the fall, but it's tough kill rate fishing big blues. And when you're starting to get like these oceanic, it looks ridiculous. You're like, no fucking way.
Yeah, that they're going to eat it.
You're going to get a 13-pound bluefish.
There's two guys like wrangling. It's like handling someone with a seizure. Like you're trying to fucking.
That is the best analogy.
You're trying to get a fucking hook in this thing, and it's like it's like
trying to eat you. It's trying to eat you all at the same time.
You're sweating.
Just get off the boat. I had one this spring. I got a video of it. It was like following my hand around. I'm like, that's fucked up. Like, I was in the live well trying to get it, and he's like, no. It's like trying to pet Riley over here. And it's that alone in itself is that's the toughest.
Imagine trying to eat that.
Listen, I don't even know, but they like them.
They love them.
They love them. The bigger, the better. We ended up by finding out, like, when you only have this size bait to fish, whatever, you just got to put it out there. And believe me, like, 700, anything from a 450 to an above, like, will attempt to eat that 12-pound to 15-pound bluefish. It's just whether you're going to keep a hook in them is an entirely different story. But yeah, it's been, nobody really knows what's going on. I think it's like a lot of the bay fish that stop short and they're like, this looks good. I'm just going to stay here because it's all the same type of stuff. A lot of bunker.
Are you marking fish? Are you seeing fish, or is it just random roaming bites?
So we started going out, like the bite this past year was in the gully. They settled in the gully. So that's like 180 typically. So it's a big ditch. It goes from like 120 ditch, and there was a lot of whale life concentrated right there. And when the whales are really visible, you get a lot of boat traffic. So when the bite would start, a couple guys would get bites. So say if there's like 10 guys giant fishing, 4 bites, 1 or 2 guys get a fish. It's not terrible. It's not great. It's not terrible, but you know that they're there.
It's pretty good for the bag.
Steady pick odds, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, nobody's everybody's feeling it out because nobody like, oh shit, like why don't we anchor here? It just takes such a long time to get confidence with what's happening. So you're trying to cover ground. You're drifting fucking bluefish. You can only do 2 baits because they're krakens and you can't even manage them. Yeah. So you're looking at like, all right, what am I going to, and there's sharks too. The sharks really start settling in like around August, but you have that time frame in the first like month and a half of the season where, maybe you could get away with fishing a dead bait or another smaller, but you don't have a ton of options by us. Like we have a lot of ground fish. Mackerel started really showing up and the squid started really getting thick. I mean, it's always, by mid-May, the beaches are loaded.
Yeah.
But I think that might have been a little bit of the difference is just getting comfortable fishing with what you got. And you could spend all morning trying to troll rigs to get blues and
just fish with what you have.
Hooks in the water, baby.
That's it.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of prospecting, covering ground from the fingers, like, you could go all the way out to the lanes and back, and people do it, but they clearly come through, and they come through closer than me.
That was my question. Are they coming through in a certain spot that you can kind of guarantee you're going to see something happen throughout the day, or are you having to travel every day to find them?
I think it's a big networking thing too. Who went out recently and how badly have you offended them before to get them to tell you, it's like, hey, what's up? Can I get you a coffee? Like, what the fuck do you want? Like, yeah. So
just figuring out how it shifted miles, yards,
Yep.
How whatever it ends up being, that's key.
Yeah. And that's been part of since like 2018 was like part of, and we noticed these fish started off, if you remember like Tuna Fest in early June, 2013, 14, 70 pounders, 60 pounders, all the way through Cox's, probably to Browns and back up again. Like,
you think those fish?
And I think by 2018, the guys were, big game fishing is a charter boat group right out of Marina. And they have like 2 or 3 boats, Seamus and Brian, Pete.
We know them well.
And usually when they get spooled, we're all right, it's time to kind of go out there and start looking. So big credit to them, because these bites really don't come to fruition unless they're out there pulling bars with the smaller fish. So that's how we hear about it. Smaller fish start showing up. All right, where did they get spooled and when did that happen is usually what you need to find out. And they've been pretty gracious with the information, and because they don't, their money's in the charter and the smaller fish. So you have to go find those smaller fish, and then you can start putting in some time out there.
What would you say like your bait species percentage has been down there for the last like 2 or 3 years? Like 50% bluefish, 20% squid. Like how would you say?
Like the bites? Or, Again, bluefish was ideal. 1 to 2 pounders, the snapper blues, that's perfect. Those are manageable baits, and you're not freaking out about how the hook looks in it, because you can fish it like Big Mac. So that's ideal, but this is where guys get hung up I couldn't get bait. Like I couldn't get any good blues. Like I didn't fucking go. And it's like, wait, I've caught, scup ended up, and they're garbage fish, but like scup, like take what you can with dogfish, scup, put it in there. And then figure that shit out later. The DM's not listening here, but like, you want to be able to, you got to put it out there in the water. And if you're sacrificing sunrise because you didn't get your bluefish, why don't you go fish the 3 hours while you got the start of the slack and then the hour after slack, and then go make some more bait after. But it depends where you are. It's kind of a toss up. But bluefish are typically the best bait, and then bunker were, prevalent inshore. We have huge bunker pods that are just pouring out an Narragansett Bay.
Envious of that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I just hadn't seen them off the beach like this. So, the bite migrated. It's a huge area of I'm sure you could go fish Cox's at any point, and if you're out there 2 days a week, you will mark these things rolling through. And it's a nice thing to know, but it's a ton of ground and there's nobody fishing it. It's like how you guys probably decide where you're going to middle or northwest. It's based on who's fished there. So unless you're stupid or you're willing to go, fuck it, let's just go give it a shot. And we did that a couple times, and it's most of the time it doesn't pay off and you look like an idiot, or you just, but at the end of the day, if you like going and you like materializing your own bite, because that takes, fishing is like all confidence. Like you have to, there's nothing worse sitting there and like, I'm stroking it. I'm not catching anything.
Right.
They won't bite when you have
you have to feel like it's going to happen at any second.
Totally.
Yeah.
And be prepared for that.
Yeah.
And doing stuff different is tough. So it's a new fishery and people are still figuring it out, and you just kind of keep it simple. You get a bait in the water, and who cares if it's dark, and just go out there and make bait with whatever you can and put them in the water.
So you're drifting 2 baits most days.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's if, that was like when you have those big blues, you want to be able to fish them clean, and then eventually you get good at throwing in a third based on what the shark situation is.
Or throwing in like a third non-bluefish bait on the down rod or something like that.
When the Macs show up, I mean, the more I thought about it, it was like, this is like Cape Cod Bay. Yeah. You kind of roll the dice. There's a few guys out there that really know what they're doing. Someone's going to see something and they're going to roll through at some random fucking time, and you're probably not going to mark them, but the bait's there and you're able to get a shot.
Yeah.
But bait fishing in itself is, if you want to get out there in the dark, squid are always there. Like that's one thing we have a ton of, which if you take a squid up to like the bay, I feel like it's like awesome. Right. Money in the bank. A squid down here, they're like no big deal.
The tunas don't care.
Yeah. Didn't.
That's weird, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because it's also tough to fish squid because you get squidded up so badly. So yeah, you got to fish something that's going to survive out there. And that third rod is typically whatever you got.
Yeah, interesting. You want to get technical?
Squids on
like
the bank.
You're,
bring up the Kraken tunas.
Yeah, I know.
Almost everyone we've hooked on a squid on the bank has been fucking enormous.
Right? Mm-hmm. They love
enormous.
They love squid.
Yep.
I think that's what brought the bite in closer to the beach. Now, I think we were driving overfish for like 2 months in the beginning, like the spring and summer. Again, it's a new bite. You have no confidence. Right. You're like, tuna chicks. I'm like, tuna chicks. But like, wait, that's the East grounds. There's no fucking way. Like, 30 days of just trying to fish out
Trust
here.
your instinct.
Dude. And, I had another guy, Robbie Taylor. He's Newport Sport Fishing. Yep. And he's a fishy fucking kid.
Fishes the bay a lot too.
Total pirate. And
facial hair.
Yes. He looks like, the pirate Yeti, we call him. Like, he's like, Matt, like, I know you're going over there, but my boy over here, the lobster guys are going out and they're seeing these things follow traps up and they know what they're looking at. And after hearing that for like a month, he's like, Matt, I'm telling you, I'm going to go out. I'm going to go put a fucking bait out. I have 2 days. I'm going to sit out there. I don't care what's happening. I'm just going to tuna fish like 10 miles off of Jamestown. I'm like, all right, go ahead. But if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be you, dude. So sure as shit, I get a video sent to me. Got him. I'm like, Jamestown Bridge is in the background. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? He's like, I also got a great white, 2 makos, and a thresher. I'm like, what, dude? And I was like, all right, fuck this. So I think we actually did the 1 or 2 canyon trips of the year. We get back in. We had a nice sword, a bunch of quality yellows, didn't get the big eyes that we wanted, but we're like, all right, good trip, feeling good, into service.
Yeah.
Are you guys fishing off the beach? I heard this guy got a 111, and it's like, fuck, they showed up like right off the beach, 4 miles from port, and now we have a fishery that's lasted about 2.5, 3 months. It was right off the beach, and the guys,
sick.
It was surreal. It was like, wait, is this happening right now?
Yeah.
I think it was like the 60s or 70s, like Nebraska Shoal. They're catching tunas out there. But and as we got out there and fished the first couple days, it was like, dude, this looks like Cape Cod Bay. It's all mud. Mm-hmm. It goes from like shelf from 70 feet to about 105. Mm-hmm. And it's all shipping lane traffic that nobody's really fishing or like there's not a lot of traffic, like lines in the water stuff traditionally. But I don't know if these fish just were doing this all day, but it just, as I was doing, I was like, this is Cape Cod Bay. Let's throw a hook. And a couple guys started throwing hooks. You could drift, but it's all a matter of how often do you want to like move the fucking boat?
Yeah,
real baits.
Killing your baits. And
how many baits do you have?
Yep. Yep.
That whole game.
That old chestnut.
Getting more detailed. What's your rig look like for bluefish? You guys are fishing bluefish a lot. There's a lot of theories and thoughts on going big and going light. And bluefish are one of those baits that, like, to your point, it's not very easy to get a solid connection to a big fish. So what's your approach terminal tackle wise?
I think, everybody asks, like, what's your favorite hook? It's like the hook that fits the fucking bait. Like, if we're fishing, a bluefish that's under 5 pounds, you can get away with an 11-aught to a 9-aught, I feel. Mm-hmm. But it also depends, like, all right, where are you hooking them? We've had, a couple of years where, we just hooked them through the softer meat and like the dorsal and had great landing rates and hookup rates. And then there's been like early in the spring last year where in the matter of like a week and a half, I was between Jackson's boat and my boat. And then I went without Danny one day with our other guy, Danny, and I lost like 7 fish. And one of those days where it was just like, turn the fucking boat around. We're fucking going home. And just thought about it hard for a few weeks. And we're just like, what could we be doing differently? And then you start messing with the drag pressure of the bite and the whole chain of events that you shouldn't do. Stick with the hook that works. But, we found that if you have a manageable size blue, you're able to put that hook through and you think it's going to pop out. It also depends on like what you're setting your drag at that strike. Like, where do you want that drag to be? And is that hook going to set? Like, we just found these fish coming back descaled, like spitting up these huge bluefish. The big ones are a total crapshoot. And we found out that you have to fight them the same way, whether plan on it being gut hooked or hinged up. But either way, you got to put earlier heat on this fish, these shallow water fish, to get them to fucking cooperate.
I couldn't agree more.
And I think where I went wrong for a little while there was getting in my own head, but also, giving it too much leeway off the bat. Like you want that hook to leave the bluefish and hinge up or gut. I don't care. I'm going to fight it either way. Like it's both, because it's going to go, if it's hinged up, you're great.
Right.
If it's gut hooked, it's only a matter of time before he chafes off. And, you have to be able to get that hook out of the blue, and that was really the biggest thing. But typically, a Mutu, but we weren't the only people dealing with
everyone else in the Cape Cod Bays deals with it too.
Yeah, because
I remember missing bites and bending the rod, and
it kind of comes in like waves.
Very
too.
strange.
Like one day everyone loses them.
Yeah,
and then the next day everyone
gets them.
You can't miss.
Right.
It's wild.
And then the temperament of the fish when they first show up is tougher than the fall. I mean, I don't know if you guys see that too, but they get
100%.
a little more lazy, whatever, a little bit more
easier.
Yes, like sluttier, like and when they show up, when they show up, they're like, "What's that? Up, spit that out," and like it's like
you wonder if they're like they feel something wrong, so they spit it out.
Yeah. So, the figuring out your drag that you don't get a ton of opportunities to set the hook on a fish that's eating a big blue. So you just got to stick with it and kind of ride it out with, more drag. I don't think, letting lighter drag for a big blue, it just, after thinking about it for a while, it was like, I don't think that's gonna work.
Yeah.
So like the circle hooks typically for us, nice, long, clean, pristine leaders. I mean, in my opinion, there's one way to bait fish for giants, and you may have difference in your splices.
Right.
You may have difference in this, but you got to get the bite first before you can worry about how much fucking drag you're getting. So, one of the things we do is Danny bought some reels a little while ago. We needed an upgrade for reels and stuff, and having different top shots for different scenarios was an important thing to realize. And I remember I listened to you guys one time for, you don't need 300 yards of mono.
No.
When if you are specific with your far floater,
right,
and you're specific with this, why one waste the top shot even if you get it for free? But I feel a little more confident in some ways, like having more of that braid out. Even though they say it's like it nicks easier, I feel like it's stronger, and it's with those surface runs, the diameter. I feel like adds another
cuts to the water much better.
So less pressure at the hook. Less pressure on your crotch loops on the run. Mm-hmm. It's huge, I think.
We don't have as many lobster pots as maybe as like the bay and the guys dragging around you and pulling nets and fucking dredges and all that other stuff. But it's the diameter. And I thought about it. It's the only trip I did the Outer Banks with Steve Fernandez. And I was, you're trolling shoots way back, everybody's doing that. But I noticed he switched to like braid, hollow core instead of Dacron, and we still had some Dacron. We had switched one over to braid. It's a big expense. Like you want to do that switch, but we started running into giants in the canyons, and you already have 600 feet out, 700 feet of line out, and the fish decides to take another, 1,000. Like, what are you left with? And how much drag is that Dacron holding? So we made that switch, and I thought that helped. It's uncomfortable to fight on backing like that, but
you just get used to not using your hand much until the top shot's on.
Boat work, everybody has their own theory on boat work, but dude, if you have a guy who can fucking drive and get on top of that fish for every inch that you can get for free, like, do it. Like, I've seen it work differently for different captains. Like, don't worry, it'll come back around, we'll just twist the boat. But if it's scoped out and you can gain by just backing up or twisting the boat, like,
it's huge.
That's what we would do.
Less wear and tear on the gear. You're more in control of the line angle coming off the fish. There's just so many benefits, in my opinion. Having that stern station for us.
I'm so envious of that.
That last.
You guys should do it if you ever.
It is
can
like
do it.
Like, and we said to each other before we got into that project, if we get one more fish because of it, we'll be stoked. I would comfortably say we're getting another dozen or more a year because of it.
Easily.
Yeah.
Killed.
Yes,
too.
and
killed because of it. Not even like catch and release.
Just those last couple pinwheels and being able to get on him
Like I
when
remember,
he's 30 feet away, coming up on the surface on the outside of his pinwheel. It's amazing.
I'd say we killed 6 fish easily last year that we probably would have lost just because of the stern station. Being able to chase him down and like get on him to the point we can get a harpoon in him while he's still swimming.
yeah, and he takes away that elaborate communication that you have to have.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Even 20 feet's a big.
You can't anticipate. Yeah, you can't anticipate the direction of the fish, and that's probably the biggest thing you guys see too. Is like, all right, where's it gonna go? And I know where it is right now, but where does it look like he's gonna go? And if you can't tell the guy at the wheel up there, and if they don't have a clear line of sight, the stern station is the way to go.
Yeah.
Even just seeing where the hook is, like just our dad being back there, for years, so used to being up forward.
Inside.
And he can visually see, all right, he's hooked on the left side.
Yep.
And then you know exactly what you need to do.
It's important too because you can maneuver the boat to keep the hook on that side so it doesn't go through his mouth. You know, if you make a weird direction change and you start pulling on a different side of his mouth, he turns over, chafes you right off.
Leader and stuff, like, I mean, I think there's scenarios where you can get away with 180 or 200 and everybody plays around with that, but 150. Guys do 130, but we typically do 150, everything for the canyons or, whatever.
Yeah. Is that what you're doing for bluefin too, 150?
Yeah, 150 mostly, but, depending on the scenario, like later in the fall when they're a little bit easier to get them to bite, I think upgrading your diameter is probably the smart fucking thing to do.
Right.
Yeah,
we do the same.
Yeah. But the J hooks, I haven't. It's one of those things. Like even with leader, when I had my little episode with losing those fish with the other Dan that fishes with Danny Young. We went through the whole. Deskin gave us a fucking spool of. Here's some Mackay, give it a try, which I wanted to try. It was nice and hard. It was like, all right, I'll give this a look. And Dan's like, my brother's like, no, put that fucking thing underneath. And I was like, all right, but you weren't there for that emotional meltdown that requires us at least looking at this. So there was like a week of me trying it. And then ultimately the stuff that always worked started working again.
Yeah.
So it's like being in a rut. It's like having the yips.
Dude, and no matter how good you think you are, there's always a rut every year.
That's the truth of it.
I remember we lost 6 fish in a row and all, day by day by day. I think it was 1 or 2 bites a day on Southwest Corner, and they were all over 800 pounds. We lost every one of them.
Was it mostly chafe?
We thought a lot of it was chafe, but come to find out we were using a shitty crimper, and I think a lot of them we broke 2 hooks, and then the other 4 we chafed with circle hooks. Yeah. 2 of them we fought for like 3 hours, so that was understandable. But the other 2 broke, and we just thought they chafed off. But then, come to find out, we were breaking the line in the crimp. Yeah,
that was probably the most. It's probably the most important thing I've found. How the rod is supposed to look at the stage of the fight, and your confidence with your connection. So I know there's, the Nicro press, is all this other stuff. I mean, I learned from Damon with, the LI or the SG. Yeah. And you can both work, different jaw, everybody, different jaw. But we had that first, when I was at ICAST and the fish showed up to Cox's, there was this whole fucking connection dilemma that, someone didn't crimp it properly. The first fish pulled, and then it just created like a butterfly effect from there. And it was like derailed, crimpers thrown off the boat, switching brands from crimps previously. And just gone back to you have to color them in, but whatever. They hold. And knowing what that can hold changes it from like 3.5 hours to hour 20 or an hour 20. Like if it's going over hour 20, an hour and 40, like hour 40 is max from. Now I'm feeling very confident to, this is not going to go far.
We get to that 90 minutes. I will say we're a little more aggressive on release days, but that 90 minutes, it's hand pressure or it's going up.
Yeah, it's a full, close to full drag. It probably is full drag at 2 hours.
Yeah.
But we're also have people on the boat every day that have pretty much never done it either. So
I gotta imagine
that's like we've noticed a lot over the last few years, especially with this release stuff. How many captains don't let their customers do the end game? You know,
they throw the poon.
No. Well, I don't mean allowing them to throw the harpoon, but like actually fight the fish for the last 10 minutes of the fight. There's so many people that hop off and do it themselves. And I get, the whole harvesting part of it, but I'm even seeing it releasing.
Yeah.
They're nervous of getting it up at the very end.
I'd rather it leave with them on the rod than when I'm on the rod.
Oh, you fucked up. Well, you shouldn't have done it that way. I'm like, what would you have done differently? Absolutely nothing. I'll be honest with you. But I gotta imagine the confidence that you guys get just from like catch and release. It's like, all right, that's how much I can put on that. Like I can.
100%.
And not knowing, without having experience or seeing it, is the confidence thing that you have to get over. All right, I've seen this go this way enough times. I know this rod is supposed to look like. Until I feel something indicating it's rubbing or doesn't feel right. Okay, now we can put this heat up.
Yeah.
I will have to.
It's knowing when to do it.
Shout out. I'm sure you'll be of the similar mindset, but fishing in Canada in the like height of the hand feed with the Bruces was like honing your bait and switch skills in Costa Rica for white marlin and sailfish back here.
What do you mean?
Like just
it was like
understanding
boot camp
drag. Yeah, it was like boot camp for drag on you're getting five plus shots a day, absolutely no worry in the world if you lost fish. And you could just put heat on them and understand line. It was just like Taylor said, it was like boot camp for 2 years.
Yeah.
Tuna fishing.
And knowing when to put heat on and when not. I mean, you can't put full drag on a fish right off the bat and expect to get them, but you can put a full drag on a fish at a certain point in the pinwheel and you can get them much faster.
Just our whole demeanor changed too, like being calm when you're in a shit show and the anchor and understanding like getting off the anchor late is better than getting off the anchor early. Same thing with the herring nets in Canada. Like a lot of it translated and just like boosted that confidence level and connections and hookups and drag pressure and all of that in like a 1 to 2 year span when it was comparing their fishery to our fishery. Ours was slow and theirs was fucking insane.
So what's the deal up there? Do they have that going on for a long time and they're just lobster fishing and crabbing and shit and then they're just like, it's open tomorrow, let's go.
They'll be commercial mackerel fishing, hand feeding giants off the side.
In July, August, summer mackerel, commercial mackerel fishing.
It's fucking so cool.
And they get 5 fish under the boat and
Do you think that at any point, if we let up on the pressure or the accessibility to giants, like something like that, like obviously the bait is up there in the cold water, but the fish mingle in here too. Do they don't breed up there? They breed down in the Gulf and
they don't breed up there.
I think it's like
it's hard.
I think it's almost like the top of the stream. It's almost like there's a huge body of fish that move in that direction, and then they just pile up in there. And I think because there's so many, like when a school goes through. There, it's massive.
Are they all?
It's like being in the Carolinas.
Not always.
No, but it's like being in the Carolinas. Like these herds, you may see a school of 500 fish.
But the herd is in 60 feet of water. It's like, and there's only, their charter fleet on a typical day. A busy day is 24 boats. There's no recreational pressure. Like a commercial charter mingle. Fishing off of let's say North Lake, 2 miles out of North Lake Harbor is the most I've ever seen is 24 boats. So you get a herd of 500 tunas and 24 boats. It's like you're not even making a dent, even if you're getting your release max every day and half the fleet's harvesting a fish. Go right back out the next day and there they are again.
Yeah. And in some years, it's not giant herds. They'll be like spread out portions, but there's a giant herd somewhere.
Yep.
So, you may have to go 2 hours, and when you get into them, it's like being like these pictures I see. I've never fished the Carolinas for bluefin, but you see these pictures of people's screens.
Oh, yeah, of all those fish,
false bottom. But picture that, but up, in 100 feet of water. That's
insane.
Yeah. I have a picture on our Instagram, my Instagram, of we ended up getting released a fish in the morning. It was flat, calm, dead all day up there. and our buddy went and hauled his net. Typically what happens, you go out in the morning, you haul your net, do your thing. Fishing kind of dies out in the middle of the day, or if it's not, if the tide changes in the morning, in the evening, whatever else. I have a picture. It was dead slow for like 6-7 hours. Craig gets back on his net. We see him haul his net, puts one rod out. He's on, gets us on the radio. He's like, "You're going to want to haul my net." We get over to his net, and the sounder, dude, like there's no background color to the sounder.
That's fucked up.
It is just red
nuts.
arches.
It looked like herring on the bank or mackerel on the bank.
Like top
but
to
tunas.
It was like we're just sitting there, like not even throwing a piece of chum, and it's just blackback, finlet, blackback, finlet, blackback. It was the most absurd thing I've ever seen.
And it's every year.
It's crazy.
At some point during the year, or some spot at some point.
It's not guaranteed. Like that herring, and I know we're tangenting here, but I don't care.
Yeah.
That herring biomass that they had off of North Lake definitely isn't what it was. The herring is still there in the Gulf of St. Lawrence and more towards Nova Scotia, and we've had to travel. You get a snippet of that hand feeding usually off North Lake the past couple of years, but it has not been as consistent. There's been a lot more mackerel.
Yep.
Like the surface feeds and the bird, like the scene from 300 when they shoot all the arrows. I know I've said this like 5 times on the podcast, legitimately pulling into like busting 900 pounders, and it's just like gannets all around you.
As far as you can see.
It's
a
wild.
gannet hitting the water every 3 feet, just going like a Gatling gun of gannets.
Yep.
And then you go back to the bank, and it's Mark 3.
But you know what? There's been several years now that we've caught just as many on the bank.
The release days
times.
when you guys don't see that boat pressure from the part-time commercial guys or the rec guys, like I see. When I talk to Robbie or Brad or, see you guys doing 2 or 3 a day, that's not much different in the same time of year.
Right.
As
in Canada.
Yeah. It's just not the same type of exposure. And I think it's
fish. Last year was different because the fish by us were big, but a lot of years their fish are just much bigger than ours. Like a small one is that 105, most of them are the 110s, the 115s.
110, 108 to like 112 up there is their average.
Yeah, they're massive. They're all,
and you're all in the chair.
All in the chair, all 50 pounds of drag.
Stand up. We did. We had like you get like crazy psycho guys, but we had one day on the Penn VISX 50s, which are legit. Better drag than most 80 wides and stuff out there. We did a 750, an 850, and a 950, all under 45 minutes up there, and stand up.
Yeah,
it's nuts.
In the chair, it's just you just get so many shots that it just gets you so confident that when that one bite for the day happens on the bank, you're just as relaxed as if you're gonna have 5 or 10 bites.
It is.
That's the big thing is how do you handle the chaos and
getting
off. You mentioned getting off the ball a little later than earlier.
That's probably one.
Volleyball getting caught in your wheel because you slid 25 feet.
Think about it for a minute. If you have someone you can trust that can handle the rod while you're thinking about getting off the ball, that's big.
That might be a good thing. You want to just kind of say what the method to our madness is there?
It's basically keeping our anchor tight when we have the fish on. Yeah. That's like the whole goal. So like, if the fish runs up towards the bow or crosses into the anchor line, we want our anchor tight so we have
it's not rubbing as much.
It's we loosen the drag a little bit, but it allows us to know which side he's on without loosening it up. And now you got a big bow in the anchor and you don't really know whether he's under or over. You don't know how that angle is into the water. Because once you slack up, that ball is now rocketing forward if you're in current.
Yeah.
Rocketing forward because the line's sinking. So it totally changes the angle. Plus, you can kind of see, like if you have tension on it and you start rubbing into it, you can watch the ball shake. But if it's slack and you get off and it gets into it, a lot of times that ball doesn't even move because it's just pulling the slack of rope around underneath.
So we like tight, like our, like even if we get into an anchor situation in a tight fleet or whatever, we don't want anyone to get off their anchor until we are
right there.
Oh, so it's more even like, cooperating.
It's our own anchor
Our
or
own
someone
anchor
else's
and
anchor. It's
someone
like
else's.
keep that anchor tight because then you know there's going to be no wrapping. You're either under or over it. And if
Right.
you're under it between their baits and the anchor, they can get off. And
Yeah.
keep
So they
fishing.
can make a turn. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
But if you're like, oh shit, we're on, anchor off, and then the fish ate the down rod and he's swimming into the tide, and now
Right.
he's wrapped in the anchor, you can't tell if he's under or over right away.
Yep.
You know, I'd rather just have loose drag, armpit the 130, and just be like, I can't really tell. Drive this way, and if the line angle starts going up, we'll just turn around the other side.
Right.
And most of the time, you're fine. Come around the other side, and
You
there,
got a
there he
50-50
is.
shot.
You know?
But
And that's one thing I think we learned a lot from the nets too. It's like we stay tight on the net and don't drop that cinder block until the very, very last second. So you know if you're under or over it, because you're hand feeding a fish and you're hanging on a 300-foot herring net. It's like hanging on 2 anchors, really.
and honestly,
You know,
even with like 30 pounds of drag, the fish has no idea it's hooked for sometimes like 30 seconds.
yeah,
Like those real big fish, like half the fish we hooked this year that were over that 800 mark, or I should say over that 750 mark or 700 mark, when we lit up on the drag with them, they'd take a little line, but like they just keep swimming around the boat and shit, still eating and doing whatever. That's when you don't want to get off the ball.
Because they're not going one direction.
Not going one direction, not taking line, not, scared or whatever they're doing.
Yeah, the ball is, eventually we got to a point where we're like, all right, they're fucking here and I'm tired of moving.
Right.
So this is more relaxing.
Yeah.
And then, eventually you realize that, all right, getting just as many shots, I can manage my bait better.
yeah.
100%.
Not everybody else is on the ball either, so
Right.
it's easy for them to move if in case you had a collision with them coming towards your boat or your fish or whatever. But
Yep.
getting on the ball it's everybody's preference. Everybody hates doing it because if you're not, but the good part about being kind of like the bay and not having this real prominent structure, just throw the fucking hook where
Yeah.
it looks decent.
Right.
And
The 1 mile swath around me is all the same bottom. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the same odds.
Yeah,
You're just making your day more comfortable.
exactly.
yeah, you get the you get the sun going down and the boat's spun to the. It's like it's just so much more comfortable, and then you can put another rod out. It's
Yeah.
like, that's different. So when you're drifting the whole entire time, it's like, all right, how much? Who's the help that I have on the boat? How reliable are they resetting the bait and moving the boat? And it's like, I don't feel like moving the fucking boat anymore. We're posting up.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
I prefer anchoring.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I
mean, I like drifting when there's a lot of small fish around because I feel like those fish just move so much, and they're not quite as like if you can get near a school of small fish, I feel like you can fool them. Not necessarily the case with big fish, but when we get into a lot of those rats on the backside and
Yeah, I prefer drifting.
eats
you guys-
the bank, I like drifting.
This might be too personal here, but do you guys ever get up and drift on the high ground up there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because one or two times I did it with D. We were doing some slow trolling max, and it's like, what are we doing? And then it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
holy shit!
To the high grounds where it's
Like
at a
everybody's
lot of
On the edge.
stroking it, doing. And he's like, oh, those bubble feeds over here. Yeah, you got smaller fish, but
Yep.
you get one of those 2 pound max, and you get it out there, and it feels uneasy at first, but then you
Right.
see it work, and
100%.
did it 1 or 2 times on our boat up there in that 90-foot, high 80s up in the high ground. And it's been like the draggers are working for
It's usually later season.
Yeah, it was like-
September on, really.
exactly. And I was like, wow. I wonder if the boys ever give it a shot. Like,
We do.
All the
Yeah.
time.
Like if there's just whales scattered all over the shoal water, I'll drift.
yeah,
If there's whales that are patterned on the edge, then I'll anchor on the edge.
yeah.
Or wherever on the edge, somewhere on the edge. Once we figure out where they like to hang, where the biomass of bait is. But
Did you see any patterns with whales by you, or is it kind of just free for all?
Yeah.
Like, could you figure out, like, all right, those whales I saw yesterday and they were with the fish?
Yes,
on
the
those
whales were, I think that's the biggest thing that we had to get over from, all of the guys that, fish seriously, that went to the Cape, had these habits. Like, if the whales fucking move, you got to get up and move, and it sucks. And it's you got to have the right guys to keep how do you keep 2 14-pound bluefish alive that are still on a fucking hook? Like, you got to get pretty creative with stuff. So we got totes lying around the boat. We found that just a normal tote fits a 10 to 15 pound bluefish perfectly.
Yeah.
And you just
put a hose
that.
in.
You got one guy doing this, one guy doing that. And it sucks. Like I dread, like you have to pull out a net. It's almost like a cradle for muskie to get in these bluefish guys. You got like 4 left. You're like, one's going to die. One's going to get sharked up. It's like, you got to preserve these things, but you had to be, and that's where like, I'm like, I'll ride it out. I'll grind anything out. Yeah. My brother's like, we're fucking going. We get up. Let's go. Let's fucking bring him in. We're going to go over there. And it's usually the right choice.
Yep.
But yeah, it's the whales. Yeah. And you have to be in them. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing. You know, they're eating and those fish are capitalizing around the whales.
Usually when you're grinding and you're swearing at yourself
pissed,
in your own head and pissed, that's when they bite.
Yep.
Back to bluefish. What's like the most messed up looking bluefish you've got a bite on?
Oh yeah, red. You know, looks like it has mange on it. And
like nasty shit.
Yeah, I mean,
eating.
Yeah.
Does it seem to be better getting bites on like the fresher, nicer looking bait?
Yeah.
Or did it not really matter?
No, I think if anything, you want the presentation to be as ideal as possible. But you fish with what you got, with the time frame you have, and you know, we certainly don't log the amount of trips that you guys would be able to log. So you got to go with what you have. So what we started doing, and it was out of necessity because, my brother's got 2 young kids, and going back a couple years ago, even when we would go to the canyon, we would we got to leave. If we want to fish for more than 24 hours, we'd leave at 6 p.m. after 7 p.m. when the kids go down and the boat's ready to go. And we typically are doing all this traveling in the dark. So, for anybody out there, you got to, if you're out there and there's a different life out there. If you flip the lights on off the beach, anytime that you
gets weird. Weird.
You get squid, you get you get all this stuff that you don't see during the day because whatever, it coats the bottom. But when we started doing more of the traveling at night, you can't see certain things, but you can usually see what the feed is on. Like I remember later in the fall, like butterfish a couple years ago. We had to get out there because we knew we had to be back at a certain point. But you're sitting out there at night. You're going to get more bait, and that's when bait is typically tougher to get later in that year. Like the bluefish start moving out to southwest ledge of block, but squid are always pretty reliable. It's just they're easier at night.
You guys hook your squid or bridle your squid?
I hook them. This is when small circle hook, perfect. Smaller the better. Tight frickin' crimp loop so they can't double back on you. Yeah. Haven't had a ton of confidence in the ringed hooks with these smaller baits, but I imagine that's just because we're fishing bigger stuff most of the time. But you talk about stitching that mantle to the shank of the hook just so it stays straight or so it doesn't tear.
We just do like either a rubber band or a
I see what you're saying.
I think a floss, like just X stitch or whatever.
Just a slip knot. Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically, like
some guys just hook them right to the tip of it.
Yeah, the top of the squid, like the top of the squid's facing me. 14-inch bait. It's probably like 3 to 4 inches back from the tip of the squid is where we'll put the
probably
hook.
Not even that far.
Probably not even. So the squid can still either swim like in escape mode or in like feeding mode, I guess. So the hook can pin
right in the top of the triangle.
Yeah. That's how we do it.
Bridle it.
No shit.
Yeah, just right under the skin with the rubber band. And it seems to like kind of hold them in the current and plane them down too. This is top secret information.
Yeah, we might have to edit this out.
Yeah,
but I am listening.
You know what?
I am not editing.
There could be 2,000 people listening to this, and I guarantee you, one person may pick up on this.
Yeah,
That's how it all works.
But everybody's got their own.
When to use it, when not to use it.
Listen, and that's a good point to touch on. Is info is so critical, but it's the effort in actually following through on it. And you find out what works for you, and then that takes a lot to get to that point to know that this thing made a difference. I tip the cap to anybody willing to exhaust themselves the way you probably did to find out that worked. I'm sure they love knowing it, but following through on it is entirely
and
different.
It's not always the same for every condition, circumstance. It's that's how we do it most of the time, but I might fuck around another way.
Yeah, I might get lazy as well, and I might just put the hook in it.
Might be 47 fish on the screen. I just hook the thing wherever the hook goes and put it down there.
But you guys probably see it better. It's all about who's the effort you're putting in, and you may feel like you're beating your head against the wall, but
usually
you've got to be really okay with you're not going to sleep if you want to do well. Probably you're not going to sleep. You can't have both. And having reliable people that kind of do it the way you have seen it done and seen it worked.
One, you made a point earlier, bringing your coaching skills, being coached, kind of every aspect of being an athlete and how that translates into being, a fisherman of your caliber and, your family's caliber, a kind of a relatable thing.
Yeah,
I did emergency management for a long, long time. And like
another level.
Our biggest thing is situational awareness. Like we harp on situational awareness in that field. And it's the exact same thing fishing. Like if you're just a passive person, like you could take all of this information that we're talking about and if you apply it passively, it's not going to work. But if you apply situational awareness and your instinct and like kind of get a read on what's going on and just like, it's almost like a flow, like we keep saying,
it's urgency and then there's panic.
Yeah.
And there's a pretty fine line between that. And when you see like, another boat, like with chaos yelling, then it starts teetering on, all right, dude, you're going to get your fucking poly caught in your wheel. And now you're going to have a real,
something's turning dangerous.
It's a fine line. And we had those times where it's like, that didn't really, maybe someone had on a cell phone or something. And it's like, you know what, that's not how we should be doing it. Yeah. And that's not how any of the guys that are better than us do it. You see a common theme and it's like, composure and speak up.
Yeah.
And with what you fucking see.
Yep, exactly.
Usually that's a good start. It's like effort, putting in the extra work, watching your lines and, putting in the time.
Huge.
I have one more question. All these bluefish days, what are some of the most epic bites you've seen? Because I guarantee you've seen some crazy shit with fishing bluefish. Maybe you haven't. Maybe they've all been silent killers.
Like the surface ones, chasing them around. So when these fish, the bites range from like 30 miles away to off the beach, and it fluctuated. And for all we know, they were probably in all three spots at some point during the day. But all the bites were pretty subtle, like subsurface. Really? There wasn't any crazy surface action. Later in the fall, this past year, it was a couple right out of the hand, and I don't know why. I mean, they get
fish out of there.
Oh no, not the
would be terrifying to me.
I know. It's like you already feel like you got a fucking tuna on when you got a bluefish. It's like, was that a tuna? And it's like you sound like such a goober. Yeah. There's no other bait that can like make you
fool you.
You talk to any like I remember asking Sandro. I was like, dude, like, do you guys fish with? He's like, dude, no, like 200 and fucking 200-pound test and a big fucking hook and hope for the best. And it's like, dude, well, that's all we got down here. It's like shit. But there's no crazy surface chases. It's like
really.
That's crazy to me.
Even fishing high bluefish, like 20, 50 feet down.
Yep.
Wow.
There was no like, oh my God, he's on it. Nope. I don't know why.
You get any kite bites or did you fish the kite at all?
We did, but again, it's if you're drifting or anchored, and if you're in a tight fleet with consolidated feeds, putting up the kite is like shoot me in the head.
Yeah.
Like I wanna
and who you have on the boat too.
That's the other thing too.
Yeah.
But when you get on that anchor and you know that you got a shot, you can throw up the kite. But that's what everybody wanted to do. But when you're drifting so often, it's just a nightmare. But no, the blue bites were usually just, and then you either, the type of boat that advances the reel or, you let them set the hook. And, and we found that with a bigger bait, it's better to just, don't fucking touch it. Just let it do its thing. Let the circle hook do its thing. And I can't say that was foolproof, but it just worked better. Like
you just left it locked up and
not even really locked up. Just let him eat that thing.
Yeah,
he doesn't know what's happening quite yet, and we've seen cases where you advance the reel and you pull it right out. But that's bluefish. And from what I gather, just picking people's brains, it's like. It's a dice roll bait.
Crapshoot. Yeah.
It's what you're comfortable.
I feel like you're interested in the bluefish, Taylor.
I am always.
Taylor likes to hone his skills anyway.
Did you guys learn anything crazy from the guys up in Canada besides like cool Canadian demeanor and
Boat handling, those guys, we've been very lucky to fish in some cool places. And I can honestly say those guys run boats better than 95% of the people I've fished with.
Bananas. Really? Like 45-foot down east boats in a fairly fast current harbors, tight harbors, where boats all stack up to each other against
with heavy current.
One common pier with, 5 45-foot down east style lobster tuna boats.
Put it this way, we passed my buddy's father, Joe Pritchard, the man, great fisherman, by the way. His father's huge. Fought a fish, snapped the chair off the pedestal mid-fight.
What?
He wore the chair like a bucket harness for the rest of the fight, basically.
What?
We got the fish, like 700-pounder. And Craig, another guy, awesome dude, had a stand-up crew for the day. So he wasn't using his chair. In like 4 to 6s, we went stern to stern and passed like a brand new pomponette chair, release chair over the transom. Like no smashing, no nothing. One seamless, whoop, pass the chair, back away, and then we were both hooked up like 30 minutes later.
That's just
one example. The nets alone, like imagine like one of the busiest mooring fields that you have down in Rhode Island. Take all the boats out of them and try to fight tunas in it.
Yeah,
that's what it's like trying to fight in the nets. And these guys are just whipping in and around the gear like no problem.
Yeah, that's called big dick energy.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
To have like
they're Canadians, so I don't know. If that's true.
Yeah, but whatever you want to say, they're calm and collected, and like handling a boat like
calm.
A single screw down east boat, mind you.
Listen, we were new once to switching over from twin to we had a single screw way back in the day, and then I never had experience really putting power over the rudder to steer the fucking boat.
Yeah.
And it's not like you can just, it's like,
no,
dude,
it's like
you're going to, yeah. And there's been times where you get pinned up against the dock early on and it's like, fuck, that boat does not move unless you're putting power behind it.
Right.
Yeah. And
you have
that's
to make
uneasy.
You have to make that split-second decision whether you're going to goose it to get out of a shit show or you have to just let the shit show happen.
Yeah.
It's basically one of those two decisions. It's either you're going to bump off something and that's it, or it's going to be you're going to attempt to escape.
Correct.
I
don't like the feeling of just getting past that boat or whatever.
And that's why they're work boats and they know that there's an acceptable level of rubbing and
100%.
Boys, are you guys cool if I phone Danny in just real quick?
Yeah.
All right.
Put him on speakerphone. You want to put him kind of up to your mic if he answers.
Sorry, we're running over here.
Oh, dude, you're good. This has been awesome.
No, awesome time. Dan, you're on the airwaves. Not live, but we can edit.
You're on the podcast, Dan.
How's it going, boys?
What's up, buddy?
How are you?
Living the dream here, just battling some seasonal depression.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think that's the reason we're all here.
Yeah,
actually,
we're trying to beat that battle.
We need a formal support group, right?
Correct.
Well, Dan, you missed some very relatable topics. It certainly sounds like there is a similar dynamic that we've ironed out. We have a good working formula, but I didn't even touch on this. Danny, I wanted to tell them a little bit about the Block Island story where we had a Steven Seagal, Tommy Lee Jones hand fight in the cockpit after 3 days of drinking and not catching. But no, the boys wanted to get you on here for a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Nice to talk to you. Yeah, it's the brother thing, right? It's fun, I guess.
It's interesting.
It's got its ups and downs. I think it's kind of weird when people fish with us and they're like, "Oh, there was no fist fight." I don't know. They'll think now.
No, that's what I was telling him. I was telling him that, because they asked how we got into fishing and then, where we are now. And I was like, well, listen, at the end of the day, we all loved getting out there on the boat. But I told him, I was like, you work with Dad every day. I had a different dynamic because I was able to kind of just be the guy who went fishing. But, you were 14, I was like 10. And, we didn't even really start fucking hanging out as like peers. And until I was like a little bit older, and it sounds like these guys
buying his beer, and then all of a sudden he wanted to be my friend.
Yeah, forgot about that. That's the fucking missing link.
Party all of a sudden, hey.
Yeah, I have an older brother.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, we were talking about the difference between upper management, middle management, and plebe serfdom.
Crew.
Yeah, but
no more captains on the boat.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Sounds and looks like you guys have a pretty sweet program though, and we have a lot of relatable things fishing as a family. So we're definitely gonna have to get both of you on here at some point and have a good old conversation.
Talk about whose personality is better.
Exactly.
For sure.
Sounds like I'm a little closer to your personality.
It's fucking actually, like I said, Dave, like we've had a few drunken hangouts back in the day, but yeah, there's the internal guy. You'll find out what he's really thinking later on after you get to know him, or mainly after 10 beers. And then there's the external guy, the approachable guy. We talked about he's like Matt, was that approachable enough? Because one person has to be more networky or the contact guy, and someone's got to be the cold-hearted killer. And usually
he just loves to fish, and he wants me to tell him he did a good job. I'm like,
You were okay.
Yeah, very good job, mediocre at best, but yeah.
yeah. Don't ever do that again.
Well, you need yin and yang, so it sounds like you guys got that going on.
For sure.
That's fun.
Yeah, but we've been here. We talked a little bit about the bites and the stuff that's going on. That
top secret.
Yeah, there might be some editing. We don't know yet, but I think it was fairly vague. And it's like I said, it's like, dude, we could tell you everything you want to know, every single detail, but being able to get out there and be confident to go fucking do it is entirely different.
Totally.
100%.
Totally.
But we'll get you on here maybe another time. I think this went well, guys.
Yeah. I think it was good. We want to
go over deep a little bit.
Go over deep a little bit and wrap her on up.
All right, good deal. Danny, just want to get you on here real quick. All right, bud?
Awesome. Appreciate it. Nice talking to you guys. Later.
Thanks,
see you later, bud.
See you.
Yeah.
So Deep, tell us kind of what you have in store for the spring and the 2022 fishing season.
Yeah. So, it's going on like year 10 with Deep and year 8 for me. So, the company started with my partner, Mike, and his brother, and, they knew they kind of had something. They had worked with a guy that had done logo design stuff for, big brands, Burton, Coke, stuff like that. So we thought that the logo was really solid to get started, and they had a little following with trade shows and, selling direct, but they needed some walking into shop presence, and that's where kind of I came in, and then, ended up by investing myself and became part owner. So it was early on when we linked up and, talk about yin and yang, being able to cover all your bases. It was a good balance. Like, Mike and I didn't know each other beforehand, but, we became really good working partners. We were able to stay in your lane and focus on the stuff you do well. So basically, yeah, it's, fishing is always going to be the hallmark of what we're made on, but we've realized that, and you guys could probably say this too, it's like, you find something comfortable that's comfortable to fish in, pretty much going to be good for anything else. So that's where we started developing like the hybrid line, and our bread and butter is the hybrid boat to bar stuff, like flexible, stretchy, comfortable, cleans easy. And we've been able to apply that recently, which is like the new thing is eco conscious decisions. And we really had to walk the line of, listen, we don't want to be waving the green flag here. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that are probably like us. We drive trucks because we need them for what we do.
Right.
We understand they're probably not the most efficient vehicles, but we got real life shit to deal with. And there really wasn't a place for the guy that maybe knew he wanted to recycle a little bit more on the boat or clean up their trash or be a little more responsible. But overall stigma of fishermen and outdoors guys is they rape and pillage and don't do anything to give back. And we're like, that's bullshit, because frankly, for the people we know, just because they don't advertise it or,
they're more respectful than the wreck people.
They do a lot more than what people think. So we thought it was important to, you can make a casual impact by, having an option from a regular polycotton shirt to a, an eco recycled shirt. And that's kind of what we're doing. We're kind of making it for the guy that was kind of forgotten about. And we think there's a lot of people out there that you can casually make an impact on this, and it doesn't have to be full green or all of this other stuff. So that's been important. That's going to be a big message for us. We banned some single-use plastic bags, and it's a slow march to make that transition. But from what I've seen, the materials are, superior. When you start talking about the recycled stuff, tied into a good cause, it's all good stuff. So that's the direction we're going to keep kind of capitalizing on. I mean, we're growing a ton, so we don't want to change too much, but going back to being anchored in this type of hardcore, authentic, business or industry gives us a lot of, scope on how this would apply for another activity outside, whether it's hiking or this other stuff. Yep. So and the fact that we're based in the Northeast, it's like, you're going to be ice fishing in the same shit that you probably fish in the fall with. And you're not replacing your bibs with some superior bib. You know what I mean? You gotta, what does someone want to wear that's comfortable? They want to wear it all the time. So that's basically what we're focusing on is, getting into new markets. We realize that, fresh water is a pretty open spot. And some of our biggest new customers from a storefront perspective are, there's people that love the tuna stuff or love the fish stuff, but also they're enamored with it. Right. And there's nothing for that person in Wolfboro, New Hampshire, or, Geneva, Wisconsin. It's, so it's cool to see. It's cool to see that they have the same passion for it, and call it whatever you want, the awareness of tuna in general, or people, it's cool to see. So it's growing, a million different things going on at once, but it's all like good problems, and, we're pumped.
You guys harness the lifestyle of fishing, no matter what it is, or being on the water outdoors, very well.
Oh, thank you.
I think one of the most fun things, for as disgusting as it is and how much it pisses us all off, was the balloon challenge.
That's cool. Well, you guys have been out there and you've seen, it's like, dude, why is this every 800 feet? It's crazy.
It truly is some days. Father's Day
insane.
In particular.
See 20, 30 balloons.
Yeah, early in the spring. And it was, we needed, it was convenient timing because we had just all right, how do we, knowing who we are, how do we convey an eco message? And it's after talking to guys a little bit about, you guys, a few other people about the balloons, they see it and they're like, yeah, it's fucking crazy. And we pick up all this other stuff. Look at this gill net. Weber sent me a picture of this gill net he grabbed, and nobody would ever know about it. But, the conception is, fishermen don't give a shit about that stuff. But so it really forced me to be like, wait, there's a lot of people out there doing some solid stuff, and this is pretty in line with, what we're trying to do. So what if we tried this? Hey, we'll reward you if you document it.
Yeah. And
the traction we saw was out of this world. It was every 10 minutes I was getting a notification, a submission.
Crazy,
but there was a couple people that, Damon Burden on, is it Pythias? Yeah. And then Chris Spies out of Long Island that were just dude, every single day, 30 balloons. And it's and
we're not talking, for those that are listening, we're not talking about fishermen tuna balloons.
Yeah.
We're talking
Mylar. Balloons from land that are going into the ocean.
Helium balloons.
Yeah. These are the ones that, scientifically proven do not deteriorate over time. Right. And it's, this is the stuff that looks like jellyfish, which is why the turtles and all this other shit.
We're seeing, a couple dozen a day on a bad day. Yeah. There'll be clumps of 5, 10 of them in a clump.
20 feet of ribbon attached to it, plastic clips. Once the color wears off, to your point, it looks just like a jellyfish.
It's crazy. And then you get guys that, all right, so you get your bow rider weekend guys into that. And then you talk to a kid I went to high school with. He runs an offshore lobster boat out of Fairhaven. And we reconnected. I was like, dude, if you see him out there, he's like, I see him all the time. This is east of Georgia's, past that. And he sent me pictures. He's like, I don't have, any way to send you a pic while I'm out there, but I'll send you a few when I get back. So the fact that we have a guy like that, and then a guy like Joe Weekend taking part in it. So it told me and us, the rest of the group, this is pretty relatable and it's pretty easy. And, we got some really cool brands behind the giveaways, Costa, Guy Cotton, the guys at Chatter and stuff. It was people, it's a no brainer. Yeah. So I think there's more there. And I think it's important to, give the everyday person you don't have to be full Patagonia and all this other stuff. You can have a real life, which is really what it boils down to, and chip away at doing the good person thing. So that's kind of what that's about. But yeah, Deep's fucking, full cylinder, full tilt, and has been for a while. It's kind of a lifestyle at this point, but yeah, it's, having you guys be, one of our lead guys for, groups for this stuff is huge, because getting you guys tied into a cause that we dreamed up, and, it means a lot. And having like a lot of the, the highliners that you've had on here is, it's cool. It's cool to see. And it's tough to get spec on it, like when you're so close to every day, but when you step back and it's like, oh, cool. A couple of those guys on the podcast were, some of our guys. And
yeah, I know a bunch. I mean, I know, I think Sandro and Dave are doing it, right?
Yeah. Everyone was doing it. Our charters were like if we're into it. If we were fortunate enough to like have an early tuna day, we spent the rest of the time looking for balloons.
Yeah. Well, listen, you guys probably would have won the thing too, but it's so look a little fishy. It's hard. And Taylor and Brian win the balloon challenge.
It's also hard to document it, like working on charters every day. It's like you do it, goes in the trash, and it's like Smalley knows it's cool.
Not for nothing, but we found a horse.
Yep, we did. We found
full blown.
We called it a unicorn. It wasn't.
Yeah, we got a nice tuna fish, and
I'll send you that. We have a inflatable horse on top of an 800 pounder,
like one that goes around your waist in a pool. We'll have to giant horse head.
We'll have to do a balloon challenge.
100%.
We saw it from like a mile away, and I looked at Brian. I'm like, dude, we just caught a unicorn. Is that a fucking unicorn? Like right now. And we're pulling up to him. Look at my binoculars. I'm like, dude, that's a unicorn. No. He's like jumping up and down and end up being a horse.
And you're on no sleep. You're like tripping out. Probably like, what the fuck?
Is this for real right now?
At first I thought it was a person.
Yeah, it was scary, but then it quickly turned into a fantastic event.
It was like a gold, I think it was a gold horse.
We'll pull it up. We'll post it on your episode post for Insta.
Yes.
So everyone can get a glimpse.
Put some good thought around the title. I'll let you guys handle that stuff, but this is cool.
Before we wrap it up, not to interrupt you, but we've been going for almost 2.5.
Boys, it flows easily when you talk about something you like, huh?
It just shows how much we needed this.
We did. I did.
We need all your fun facts, deep contacting and
social
website,
media.
Yeah.
And
so
all that stuff.
Yeah, if you want to, one of the things that we think we do a little differently is, my partner and I, we handle all the social media is an incredible tool, and you can't properly hear what your customer has to say or see what your staff, pro staffers, ambassadors are doing. So we're really hands-on with that. So we encourage anybody that's a part of it to tag us in anything, whether it's a shitty picture or a really cool picture. In our business, content is huge, and we like sharing our customers' experience with it. So if you want to find us, we totally encourage you to check out any local retailers throughout the Northeast, first and foremost, and our website, shopdeep.com. Check us out. I think we have the SeaBros 35 code still working. Yep. And we've seen a few of the boys take advantage of it. It's about as good of a deal as you're going to get on the website. So, yeah. And
your social is Smoltz11.
Smoltz11. Yep.
Deep Apparel is deep_apparel.
Yep. At deep_apparel. And yeah, chances are if you send us a DM.
Instagram, probably your most.
Yeah, it's probably our big. I mean, Facebook is, one and the same. It's like, so from a business, you can just share it and post once somewhere, and then you can share it to two different fan bases. I mean, it's huge, but we're more interactive with Instagram.
Yeah.
And that's where we see most of our traffic and customers coming from. So
nice.
Definitely encourage you to start up a convo. Not too long, but we'll always respond to the DMs, and we try to interact as much as possible. That's 101, but that's been a huge tool to see the fans grow from 1,000 to 40, 41, 42. It's cool. It's cool, and it's nice to still have a handle on that, because that's how you keep the authenticity, and it's exhausting. I'm not telling you guys anything either, because
it's a lot of work,
hours of your day,
and and it's as we've grown to the point where we're so busy getting orders in the door and out the door, it's tough to find that time to because it takes brain power, a little bandwidth to put together a good post, and it's like, fuck, dude. I just want to post this thing and just leave it there and
not write anything underneath it. I hear you.
So you guys know the struggle, but it's a good way to live it, and wouldn't want it any other way.
It's a good problem to have. Well, Matt, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, no doubt, guys. I was pumped to be here.
Congrats on some great fishing on your own vessel over the last few years. That's awesome to see, having a fishery like that in your own backyard. And thanks for sharing some details on it with the listeners. I'm just going to end this on OG's 3 words of fishing wisdom. We have to. Just remember, you can't catch them if you don't have a hook in the water. Always trust your instincts. And the last one, you'll just have to keep listening. Stay tight, everybody. Thank you so much, buddy.
Thanks, bud.
Thank you very much for tuning in to the SeaBros Fishing Podcast. If you would like more information about today's guest, our episode, and show sponsors, or if you want to order hats and apparel, please visit our website at SeaBrosFishing.com. You can also stay up to date on all the latest SeaBros Fishing content and podcast episodes by following us on Instagram at SeaBros Fishing. Finally, to book a trip with us through our family-run charter fishing company, please visit MassBayGuides.com or see our latest updates and fishing reports by following Mass Bay Guides on Instagram and Facebook.